Good evening. At this time, it's the last call for requests to speak. Press this.
I just talked to my kid's principal and it just let somebody and the parent of the kid that I got her. They're both 6, so right.
Good evening.
Yeah. The parent of the kid who got hurt.
So low.
Was like, this is a fight. I was like, no, that's not the situation. He goes,
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I can't hear it. Can you hear me? That's terrible. Good evening. It's terrible. Can you hear me? Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mrs. Richards, roll call.
President Schultz, let the record show that all 5 board members are present.
Thank you. Would you please join me in a moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance?
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Mrs. Richards, Superintendent's report.
Yes. We are very excited this evening to celebrate everything that's going on in our schools, specifically our letter grades. So at this time, can I have Mr. Lotzenheiser and Dr. Lindsay come up with Shauna Miller, and we are going to introduce the best district in the state of Arizona. Can you give our schools a round of applause? You're going to get to celebrate each of our schools, and then we have Marcus Berkshire here to celebrate specific data points. So Dr. Lindsay, take it away.
All right, we're going in alphabetical order. So to kick us off, I'd like to celebrate Bridges Elementary for their A letter grade. And congratulations, Principal Bickle and Assistant Principal Mr. Berg.
You want to do an individual, and then we're going to have you stand.
Yeah, we're having, have the board. The board is going to come take a picture with you as well. Sure. In the center sounds good.
So you can stand behind it, but I want to see.
We're good. Congratulations, Bridges. What we want you to do is stand over here on the side.
All right, next up, we've got Centennial Elementary. And we've got Principal Rachel Broadley and Assistant Principal Matt Verville. So congratulations, Centennial. We're so proud of you guys. All right, we can advance the slide. Next up, we've got our Sharks from Chaparral Elementary. Principal Christine Hansen and Assistant Principal Terry Pepper. Way to go. Move over down a little bit. Coyote Nation, congratulations to Coronado Elementary. We got Principal Armstrong and Assistant Principal Brian Griggs.
Thank you. Well, Brian,
Scoot down a little bit.
don't run me over. Perfect. Don't run me over.
Next up, we have Cortina Elementary. Principal Kelly Papke and Assistant Principal Chrissy DeBono.
Want to break the rules? Okay.
All right, next up we have HTA, Higley Traditional Academy. Woo! Principal Karen Bacon and Assistant Principal Amanda Day. Yay. Way to go, ladies. We keep moving. Way to go, ladies. All right, next up we have Power Ranch Elementary with interim Yes. Congratulations, Power. We've got interim principal, Mr. John Dolan, receiving. Congratulations to Power Ranch. Super proud of you guys. Way to go. Next up, we have Santan Elementary. Principal Ray Mercado will be accepting this award. Congratulations, Santan. Super proud of you guys. It's a major award.
Do you want to do a big picture with all the elementaries?
We can, because it's going to get real crowded.
Hey, why don't we have everyone try to come in? We're going to do one with all the elementaries. Ray will be right in the middle. Keep going a little bit around. There we go. All right, as we transition to secondary schools, once again, a round of applause, elementary. All those awesome A's. All right, first up, secondary, we have the Sossaman Spartans. Mr. Potts, Mr. Keeling, Ms. McCullough representing today. We'll do a secondary one. Okay. And Higley High School. Come on down, Higley High. We have Principal Alan Fields accepting the banner. Well done, Mr. Fields and Higley High. Oh, where's Mr. Dolan? The Higley Virtual Academy Vipers. Congratulations. That is a nice color and a wonderful logo. I don't know who designed it, but they did a great job. And finally, we have Williamsfield High School. Principal Dan Fox, Athletic Director Daryl Stengel. All right, let's have everybody come on out. Right there. Good. There's 4, so we should be nice. Excellent. Way to go, secondary schools and our A. Oh, and the moment you've all waited. Oh, wait, it's already on the screen. Congratulations. So as a district, when you look at all of our schools and the scores of all of our schools together, we earned an A as a district. Congratulations to Higley Unified School District, our governing board. If you would come and accept our banner, please. You guys get to hold it this time. We'll stand on the outside. Oh no, I'm standing on the outside. All right.
President Schultz, members of the board, we're excited for the next chapter of Higley Adventures. If individuals are in the audience this evening that we are highlighting, will you please stand up and wave? Let's begin with Jessica Batista. She is our Director of Public Information and Marketing. Jessica joined our team on November 13th as the Director of Public Information and Marketing. We did steal her from Queen Creek, and we're pretty proud of that. Anyway, we're excited to have her here, and we're confident that she will make significant strides in advancing us toward meeting our marketing goals. Welcome, Jessica. As I believe everybody in this room is aware, we need to celebrate Higley Nights once again. Principal Fields, are you still in the room? Right back there. Higley Nights, 5A state champions. Again, 2 years in a row, led by head coach Eddie Zuby. They won this in the fight, or the championship game, on December 1st against Desert Edge. Congratulations, Knights. We are so proud of you. Additional recognitions will be happening during our January board meeting. Congratulations. Our Air Force Junior ROTC Cadet Corps Commander Tyler Bubala from Williamsfield High School received first place in state, second place National Sons of the American Revolution Enhanced Scholarship Awards. In addition, Tyler was selected as the October 2023 Gilbert Town Council Student Citizen of the Month. The award was presented at a special ceremony on Tuesday, November 28th at the Gilbert Town Hall. We're so very proud of Tyler and can't wait to see what's next. In November, Higley High School had 12 students compete in the academic decathlon, which is the ACP Invitational. The students scrimmaged with top teams in the state and earned a combined 9 awards, which include essay, economics, math, music, science, speech, and literature. Congratulations to Ms. Matthews and all of these students for a job well done. Participating students included Cody Stell, Logan Pendleton, Savannah Pendleton, Janae Lopez, Chase Goodwin, Ryan Cornett, Sydney Deo, Victoria Tesh, Colin Westbrook, Marshall Moser, Rankin Twittle, and Mason Cole. Congratulations to these students. On this slide, we have the academic decathlon participants who brought home awards. We'd like to congratulate these students on their achievements. Congratulations, Cody, for economics, Logan for economics and essay, Janae for essay, Chase for math, Tori for speech and literature, Ryan for music, and Sydney for first place in science. Higley Unified School District has earned 2 national awards for its exemplary financial reporting and accountability, bestowed by both the Association of School Business Officials International and the Government Finance Officers of the United States and Canada. These recognitions stand as a testament to the district's ongoing dedication to exceptional financial management. In addition, the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting was bestowed upon Tyler Moore, Higley's Chief Financial Officer. This was by the Government Finance Officers of the United States. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. This was judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story. Help me in congratulating Mr. Moore and the entire finance department. We are so appreciative of your hard work. And yes, you do have to stand up. Okay. Moving on to our points of pride. Can we have Miss Patty Gleason and Miss Stacy Utley come to the front?
Well, what an amazing night we get to continue the celebration. I'm so excited to see all of you. President Schultz, thank you so much for having us, members of the governing board and cabinet. So tonight we get to celebrate preschool, and we're going to start with Kolie Preschool first, and we would like to honor Julie Valek as our teacher point of pride. You have to come up front. All right. So, hold on a second. Sossaman. All right, we are recognizing Julie tonight because she has been the cornerstone for our preschool, our Kolie Preschool, since we opened in 2013. Her solid classroom management skills and her supportive instructional strategies have created a classroom family environment where all children succeed and they're ready for kindergarten. She is passionate about her students and playfully connects with them to build a strong relationship that is vital to student success. Her students and families love her. She's a problem solver and solution oriented, and we always count on her to get her done and her get her done attitude. There are many ways that Julie has contributed to the success of our preschool and our students throughout the years, but one in particular comes to mind. She had a particularly challenging student last year, and she worked diligently through the year to learn about him, connect with and work with his parents, and seek outside support for him, and then make sure that his transition to kindergarten provided all the support that this little child would need. She is one of our treasures, and we are proud to recognize her as our teacher point of pride at Kolie. All right. So next, we're going to recognize Carrie Teets as our classified point of pride for Kolie Preschool. All right, Miss Carrie. So, we're recognizing Carrie because she's such an amazing support to everyone in our preschool and even in the middle school when needed. Carrie is compassionate, kind, and comforting to everyone she interacts with, and that means every child, parent, teacher, and guest that comes to Kolie ECDC. She's always ready to come and help when called, bringing her trusty thermometer and her positive attitude. Her office is warm and inviting, and all the children know her, love her, and trust her as she triages and takes care of cuts, bruises, bumps, and other assorted boo-boos. She knows her job inside and outside is on top of every protocol, procedure, and care plan, making sure that everyone in our center is safe. She also helps in a variety of other ways when she isn't caring for our littles. She'll help in the front office, do lunch duty, help out in the classrooms when needed. She helps make Kolie ECDC a very special place to be, and we honor her as our Little Cougar support staff points of pride. All right. So fun that I get to do it all again. All right, now we're going to celebrate our student point of pride. Would Morgan Fontes and her teacher, Carrie Burnett, please come forward? Morgan, come on up. There you go. You're going to turn around. Show your beautiful smile. There you go. And Carrie, do you want that?
So I was happy to nominate Ms. Morgan here because she is a ray of sunshine in our class. She enters the room each day with a huge smile, excited and ready to learn. She loves learning and engaging with the other children in the room. She always is excited to participate in classroom activities, and she always works hard. Morgan is kind and compassionate. She has the ability to include everyone and make them feel special. She is everyone's best friend in our class. Morgan is a leader and always willing to help out. She is the first to volunteer, whether it be as a helper to answer a question. Her confidence and spunk make her shine in our room. We are lucky to have her in our class.
gonna stay up here. Morgan, come back. You gotta stay right here. I know. Do you notice the skip, right? It's so good. All right, and then our last point of pride from Kolie is our volunteer. Nancy McCormick, would you come up, please? Got to get our hugs in. All right, so we're very excited to honor Nancy, fondly known as Gammy in our center. I know, it's so perfect. It is, and that's what she, who she is. So Nancy, or Gammy, as our little Cougar family fondly calls her, has been a gift to Mrs. Camposano's class and Kolie Preschool this year. Gammy has been a consistent volunteer, and she actively seeks ways to contribute in the classroom, Miss Jessica's classroom, and in any classroom that you've found that needed help, which is wonderful. She shares her love, joy, and her playful presence with our little Cougars. We're so happy when we see her come into the building, and she's genuinely happy to be with us. She even shows up to volunteer when her grandson is out sick. What a beautiful blessing she is for all of us. Thank you, Gammy. Yes, and would you introduce who you brought to celebrate you tonight?
My husband.
Oh, Julie's husband, Mike, is here. All right, and I think your family, I know, that's right, all of our staff at Kolie, yes. I know we got a lot right there. And Morgan's got her whole family, grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad. And her mother is actually a teacher at our school as well, Miss Haley, yay. And then, Tammy.
I'm from Virginia, so I don't have much family here, but it's my grandson's 4th birthday. So he is at the arcade with his friends.
Yes.
And my daughter was very upset, but I said, that's okay. You need to be at his birthday party.
But you'll join them next, right?
I'm gonna join
Okay,
them,
there
yeah.
you go. So
Yeah.
thank you. And thank you all for coming to support them today, too. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And wait, there's more. Now we switch over to Sossaman. And again, what an honor to be director of both of these amazing schools and to be recognizing these fantastic people today. So I would first like to acknowledge you. Jennifer Ziegler is our teacher point of pride from Sossaman. Come on up. Okay. Oh, wait a second, that's the wrong one. Hold on here. I don't think I could say it by memory. I'm not very good. Is that it? Nope, that's not it. You know what? I put it in the, take it out right there. This one. There she is. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Worth it. It's worth it. So we're recognizing Jay-Z, as we fondly call her, because she's become the hub and the backbone of our center, bringing Gen Ed and special education preschool together. Jen is the first one to jump in to partner with and help her colleagues with challenging children and to provide service to anyone in need. She is solution-minded and full of ideas, always bringing her best self to the table to support in any way she can. She wears several hats this year. In addition to being a STARS and a 4-day BB teacher, she is also one of our leadership team. She's helped with the itinerant teacher duties as we wait to hire a person for that position. And she's now a part of the preschool eval team at Sossaman this year as well, and also head of our Sunshine Committee. So Again, you are always doing everything, Miss Jay-Z. It's so wonderful. So her students and her families adore her. She makes everyday learning experiences fun and exciting for littles and brings learning to life with lots of props and decorations to immerse them in their learning. She absolutely loves Disney, and like Disney, she knows how to appeal to all the senses of the children that she teaches. Thank you for all you do, and we are so excited to honor you tonight. So our next honoree is our classified staff, and we took her right out of the building because she was working today. Raina Fishman, would you please come up here? She's our custodian. I know I need to give you the night off, don't I? But I know you have so much to do. Come on up here. We need to talk about you. All right. There you go. All right, we love this woman. We're very excited to honor Raina tonight as our classified points of pride for SOSMA and ECDC. Raina is an amazing woman with a work ethic that is rivaled by none. She keeps our entire center shiny, clean, and safe for all of our little Spartan family. She has a great attention to detail and takes such pride in all her work. I have never seen anyone work as hard as she does. And our center is big, and she does it all by herself. She knows everything that, this is that part too that I love about her. To go along with her mighty cleaning skills, she has a wonderfully big heart. And she loves our teachers and children and always makes time to check in and see how everyone is doing. She knows everything that is going on in our center and is kind of like the mom of our center, taking care of all of our needs and making sure everyone is doing well. Thank you for loving us and doing all that you do to care for us, Raina. We love you. Thank you so much. What's up, Bradford? And this is for you too. Thank you. All right. Okay. And next we have our student point of pride. Daniel Barnard, will you please come forward? And one of his teachers, Laren, is going to be talking about him today and reading a little bit about him. Thank you. Oh, Daniel, it's so good to see you. Can we give him a round of applause?
Right.
You got it?
Yeah. Okay, Daniel, can you face that? All right. We are very excited to honor Daniel Barnard as our Student Points of Pride at Sossaman ECDC. Daniel was nominated by 3 different teachers. Mrs. Childs wrote, "He is the kindest student and has the most helpful moms." Mrs. Marcel was his teacher last year, and she wrote, "I would like to nominate Daniel Barnard from Laren Garrett's Kinder Prep class as the Student Point of Pride. I was Daniel's teacher last year, and he was kind, always helping peers, and a joy to have in the classroom. He is respectful of others and a true asset to the classroom and school, and always has a smile for everyone." Mrs. Garrett, that's me, she wrote, "This is Daniel's 3rd year at our center. It has been a joy to watch him grow as a student and a kind friend to his peers. When Daniel is absent, I often hear friends say, 'I miss Daniel.' And then they all say, 'Me too.' Daniel is so excited about learning new things and is genuinely excited when his friends have something good happen to them. He comes from an incredibly kind family. Daniel adds a special love to our classroom family."
And then I have to tell you, I would have nominated Daniel too. I love hugs, and whenever I see Daniel in his classroom or coming or going home from school, he always seeks me out to give me a hug. Those hugs are the highlight of my day, Daniel. They're so good. You have an amazing future ahead of you, and we are very proud and honored to have you here with us to start your journey. One more round of applause. And this is for you. Want to hold that? Thank you. Stay up there with him. Okay, and then our final honoree tonight is our volunteer. And would Lauren Davis please come forward? She's one of our middle school TAs. Okay. Again, we're very excited to partner with our middle school, and we're very excited to partner with CTE. And Lauren is one of our TAs. So we're very excited to recognize one of our middle school volunteers, Lauren Davis. Lauren volunteers in Mrs. Child's Brilliant Beginnings classroom and has proven herself to be indispensable. She comes to help every day in the AM and on early release days after school. She's made wonderful connections with the students and is adored by the littles in her class. She knows the classroom routine and always helps any way she can. She independently runs the Name Writing Center as she greets the children at the beginning of the day. Like mother, like daughter, Lauren was meant to be teaching and working with young children. She is the daughter of Jennifer Davis, who is the paraprofessional in that classroom as well, so it's pretty wonderful. She is so dedicated that she even comes to school to volunteer when her mother is absent. Which doesn't happen very often. Thank you for all you do to make a difference in the lives of our children, Lauren. We are so proud to have you as part of our class family. And you got this for you here. This is for you too. Okay, now who did you bring today to celebrate you? Everybody. There you go. All of our
my husband, my daughter, her sidekick, my work wives. I've got 3 of them here. My work family that I live with every day, and you guys.
Okay. Yay! Very good.
Everybody.
How about you, Miss Raina? Who did you bring today?
Before that everything, I give the thank you, the honor to Jesus Christ and God, because you know what, for him, I know here. Thank you for everything. That him, because he give me the strength, he helped me to me and do it, everything, do it, you know, for everybody. And for him and Pastor for everybody stuff and the Sosamen preschool. Thank you for everybody. And my family is here. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we love, so good, so good. And then, Daniel, who did you bring today?
I brought, my mom's.
Yay! And little brother.
Yeah, and little brother. And you know what? I gotta speak for Miss Garrett. I got some dipped pretzels for you.
That was for you?
I don't know. Thank you.
I think we just heard about her. Oh, very sweet. Always thinking of others. And then who did you bring?
I brought my family.
Okay, and all her family is here as well. So thank you. Thank you. Big round of applause.
Ready? Okay. President Schultz, members of the board, next we have our Higley report of upcoming events. And in case somebody missed it, winter break is about to start. Nobody missed it. We're all looking forward to that and wish everybody a wonderful holiday. On Tuesday, January 9th, we'll have our first Citizen Committee meeting here at the DO at 5 p.m. Wednesday, January 10th, we have another SPED parent meeting night, preschool to kindergarten. Ms. Miller and her team are doing an outstanding job with these meetings, so we encourage you to attend if you can. Next, we have our spelling bee at the HCPA at 5 p.m. on January 11th. And finally, we have our next board meeting on January 17th here in the district office. Mr. Moore has an exciting update to share.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Richards. President Schultz, members of the board. Tonight we have here the Citizens Committee members. I want to thank the board for the last meeting. As a recap, the board authorized for utilizing a Citizens Committee for the upcoming, well, specifically to address and look at the school funding initiatives that we have upcoming, including the M&O override and potential bond issue. And so with that board meeting and that approval from the governing board, we opened up the selection process. Over 70 individuals applied for these 15 spots. So it was a very engaging and basically there's a lot of interest within our community, our teachers, our staff being a part of this committee. We, as a cabinet team, looked at the 10 at-large bids and tried to have equal representation with our teacher groups, our parents, our communities, our community leaders, and we feel like this committee here that is represented tonight represents, I think, Higley as a whole. And as a reminder, all these meetings will be follow public open meeting law. And so while if you were not selected for the committee, there will be agendas posted, meeting minutes, and anybody is welcome to attend any of one of the committee meetings. So with that, I know we have a couple Citizen Committee members in the audience, so I'll read off the names and then look forward to a robust conversation at the start of the new year. So the Citizens Committee selections include Christopher Sexton, Vanessa Shepard, Jennifer Nunez, Victoria Payne, Melissa Johnson, Domingo Santos, Eric Braun, Taylor Francis, Robert Furneaux, Ozzie Lewis, Marty Bender, Michelle Bugg, Melanie Shehe, Kathleen Richards, and Scott Hamilton. So we have a few individuals in the crowd today, so look forward to the conversation. In addition to myself, the Director of Maintenance and Construction, Gustavo Landeros, will be an integral part of the conversation as well. So again, look forward to the conversation and I guess give a round of applause for our committee members. Concludes my comment.
Is that all for the superintendent's report, Mrs. Richards? Thank you very much. I should have said this when the other schools were in here, but congratulations to all the schools on the A ratings. And I know we're going to go more into this in 6.2, but several of our other schools had made strides this year as well that we'll talk all about that. So congratulations. It's a testament to all the amazing work that our district admin and teachers are doing, and I am honored to be a small part and to have my children go to the school, so thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the Citizens Committee too, Mr. Moore. We got new microphones, I apologize. Moving on to requests to speak. We value input from our constituents. This time on our agenda has been set aside for anyone from the audience who wishes to address the board. Those that wish to speak should have filled out speaker cards, which are due prior to the start of the meeting. Members of the board may not discuss, comment, or take action on matters raised that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01I, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Although we ask the audience members, to practice proper public meeting decorum, refraining from either negative or positive responses, including clapping or verbal outbursts, to ensure fairness to all points of view. Those that refuse to follow these rules will be asked to leave. In accordance with policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings, if considered necessary, the governing board shall set a time limit on the length of the comment period. In order to ensure that each individual has the opportunity to address the board, the president may also set a time limit for individual speakers. Thank you for your cooperation. First, we have Mrs. Alexander.
President Schultz, members of the board, and the district cabinet, thank you very much for letting me have this opportunity tonight. I'm going to forewarn you that you will hear the quiver in my voice. It's just my passion coming out, so I apologize. I'm Cynthia Alexander, and I am an educator. I've been for 31 years, 17 years in the district of Higley. And I wanted to take this opportunity to express how great it is to be an educator, a parent, and a community member of the Higley Unified School District. There are many reasons within the 17 years that I've been here that could highlight how wonderful it is to be a part of this community, but I want to shine the light on one particular moment to recognize many people who helped make something happen in our district. On Saturday, December 2nd, Chaparral Elementary hosted a VEX-IQ tournament, robotics tournament. 48 teams from around our state, including Buckeye and Tonopah, attended this event. Approximately 200 students, their coaches, their parents, and their families were in attendance at this event. For students, coaches, and spectators to have a positive experience, our club needed many hands to help. I reached out to our high school, middle school, National Honor Society, and our National Junior Honor Society, the robotics, the engineering, the CTE classes, and the clubs and the fellow educators around our district. And I reached out to our parents as well, The outpouring of support was tremendous. We had 17 parents, 20 high school and middle school students, and 26 Higley Unified School District staff members jump in and support our tournament on a Saturday during their personal time. Personally, this is rare. It doesn't happen in all districts. Every time I ask for volunteers to support students, the Higley Unified School District community responds. They rally and they work hard to create a positive learning experience for any Arizona student. The spectators took notice of this support. They commented on how amazing it was to see the level of volunteerism, and they complimented us for supporting their students. Personally, I want to thank the following Higley Unified staff members for their commitment and dedication. Our registrations filled up fast. In 2 days, my tournament was full, and not all Higley teams got to attend, but Melanie Bodner and Shay Timko from Cortina, Don Litwin and County Frotnick from Santan, even though their teams couldn't attend, they judged 50 engineering notebooks for us. Trey Austin from Cortina ran the MC and the referee for the entire day, making sure all the matches ran smoothly. Thank you to John Burke and Kelly McLean, Christine Hansen, Rick Hansen, Wendy Stove, Lindsay McCombs, Penny Montez, Molly Montoya, Renee Dawson, Tim Price, and Ted Schwartz for conducting team interviews and working through the judging process. Thank you to Sarah Bennett and Cindy Dooley for stepping in and ensuring that concessions happened. Oh my goodness, thank you to Barb Cooley, John Burke, Melanie Bodner, and Tara Price for sharing our robotics fields. Thank you to our custodial people, Angel Ornelas, Sean Clifford, Dave Trodero for having pristine facilities. And thank you to Robert Lafayette and Nathan Cushman for making sure IT had us running. If I could take just 2 more seconds to say, I'm humbled to work with and in a community of dedicated individuals, and it reminds me how great it is to be Higley. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Maggie Borse. I apologize. What is it?
President Schultz, members of the board, my name is Maggie Borze. I am in my 6th year as the secondary English language arts instructional coach, and I have the privilege of working with all of the 6th through 12th grade English teachers in this district. When Higley leadership took a chance and hired me, I was a high school English teacher in Mesa. I knew Higley was much smaller, but after a month in my position, I knew I was in a very special place. I work with 53 English teachers, all of whom are nothing short of magicians of their craft. They are creative and innovative professionals who truly want what is best for their students. Trust me when I say, teaching teenagers is no easy feat. And while I would love to recognize each teacher by name, please know each and every one of them deserve public accolades this evening. Not only am I a district employee, but also a Higley mom. When I started my position here, I knew this district is the one I wanted my kids to attend. You can imagine my delight when we found our dream home in the community. I have a 1st grader at Cortina Elementary, and there are not enough words of gratitude from my son's team of teachers. Oh, darn it, I was gonna try not to cry. There are not enough words of gratitude for my son's team of teachers, Miss Maxwell, Miss Barr, Miss Haggerty, Miss Patterson, Mrs. Parkinson, Mrs. Ransdell, his specials teachers, and his former kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Cook. My son is a unique learner, and these wonderful teachers continue to provide the love and tools for his success. Mrs. Papke and Mrs. DeBono go above and beyond, not only for him, but for all of their students. I wanted to make sure Cortina was recognized tonight because we are a proud Tiger family. My 3-year-old is in the Brilliant Beginnings program at the Sossaman Preschool, and his teacher, Mrs. Montano, and her aide, Miss Maddie, are absolutely amazing. Thanks to his teachers and the preschool curriculum, my tiny tot is thriving. Most importantly, he has learned how to calm his big emotions through coping tools they provide, and for that, I am truly thankful. Higley is a wonderful place, thanks to the teachers, staff, principals, our supportive directors, and our fearless leader, Miss Sherry Richards. I am so blessed to work and live in this district. Thank you, and happy holidays.
Miss Jody Walker.
Good evening. I'm Jody Walker, and I am the District K-5 ELA instructional coach. Before I was an employee in Higley, I was a parent. I have 3 boys. My oldest, 2 have graduated from Williamsfield, and my youngest is now a freshman at Williamsfield, and my boys have also attended Gateway Point and Kolie Middle School. I could stand up here for an hour and tell story after story about the amazing people at each of those campuses. I never get emotional until it's my kids, sorry, who have made a difference in my boys' lives, who have gone above and beyond to make sure they were successful, who have celebrated their successes and supported them when they have struggled. Now, you might be thinking, well, you're an employee, so they're gonna support your kids, they're gonna go above and beyond. This was long before I was an employee. I was an educator in a neighboring district for 20 years. And as I saw the education that my boys got in Higley, when I came and volunteered, when I came and just was here for programs, and I just saw the amazing things that happened in Higley, I thought, I want to be a part of this district. And so this is my 5th year in Higley, and I have not regretted a moment of leaving my prior district and coming here. I have never worked in a district or even heard of a district where their employees are more cared for, where people truly care for each other. Anytime I'm in a meeting with people from district, the first question is always, is this what's best for students, and is this what is best for teachers? That's always at the forefront of every decision that is made. I want to thank my fellow district instructional coaches for everything they do. I support the elementary literacy coaches who are amazing people. And I want to thank Mrs. Richards, Dr. Lindsay, Mary Davis, Marcus Berkshire, Melissa Garland, and everyone at the district office for all the hard work they do every day to make sure that we're making a positive impact on Higley students.
Next is Mrs. D. Ambrosio.
This is the most exciting night ever. I love all the celebrations and the accolades. Hello, President Schultz, Governing Board, Cabinet. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wanted to share a couple other celebrations that are going on in Higley that are so incredible. Over at HTA, the third graders have initiated a toy drive to give back to kids in need. As of today, I think we're at 189 gifts for kids in need. Another really neat thing is that we're gonna have our 20th annual jingle jog at HTA on Friday. We would love for you to come and see this incredible event that was started 20 years ago by a retired teacher now, but Miss Judy Benson. I wanted to bring up the Higley Leadership Academy. It is such a great opportunity that the district's offering to teachers and coaches to come and learn a little bit more about district policies and just what goes into being a district. I had the unique opportunity to work with Miss Deborah Welch, shadow her for a day. Her role is a behavior specialist. So at one school site, we went to a first grade classroom to a friend who has really made some strides this year, and Debbie and I got to reward him for his amazing behaviors. And I see her impact not only on students, but also on teachers. She mentors new to Higley or new to teaching teachers, and she's just masterful, and she gives so much support, and seeing that was so much fun. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Sherry Richards for being amazing, for your role in leadership, for supporting all levels of staff, from certified, classified, administrative, maintenance, for visiting classrooms, for signing, for doing science experiments, for reading to students, for working with our stakeholders to make sure that Higley stays forefront in our community, and for stepping up in such an important role with such dignity and grace. So I thank you all so much for what you do, and I wish you a Merry Christmas.
Ms. Ginger Smith.
Hello, my name is Ginger Smith, and I am a mother and an aunt of children that live in this district. I am a taxpayer that helps fund this district. I was already concerned about what is going on in the schools based on what I've witnessed in the area. But my concerns are growing every time I come to these meetings. It is appalling that there is a group of teachers that we are meant to trust our children with more hours a week than we get them ourselves. Teachers that are angry with parents like me that want to know what is being done with the funds I contribute to these schools. Teachers that are angry with parents like me for questioning what is in the curriculums. Teachers that constantly sit in this audience scoffing, hissing, and trying to intimidate parents like me that simply want to ensure our children are going to school to prepare them for their future. I'm concerned that we seem to only be grading our education results against other districts in the state and not nationwide. Shouldn't we be striving to be better than other states to benefit our children's future successes? And I'm concerned why we shouldn't prefer to have an attorney or legal team working with and answering to the school board. It seems the current system leaves much room for error and corruption. Shouldn't all of our overall concerns be about these kids and coming together to be sure we do what is best for them? Even if you feel there is no reason for parents like me to have these concerns, why are we met with so much hostility? Thank you.
Miss Heather Balch.
Good evening, President Schultz, members of the board, cabinet. It's good to be here tonight. Congratulations to Higley for all the great things that we're doing. It's really exciting. I did just want to take a couple minutes to talk to you about an agenda item that's on this evening, and that's about our physical therapy services. One of the companies, Westergaard, I have the privilege of working closely with through the evaluation process. Their team members are professional. They are so courteous, they're kind to students, they're putting students first. And when working with contract agencies, you don't always get that. And with Westergaard, you do. So I'm really happy to see their rating that they got and fully support them. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, as governing board members, there are rules that you have to follow. And rules are set, and that's great. There are also ethics. And ethics, I think, sometimes might be forgotten or overlooked. So I did want to just review some of the board member ethics on policy BCA that I pulled from our policy. I'm going to review 4 of them, but I encourage you to go ahead and look over them. Just a refresher. The first one is render all decisions based on available facts and independent judgment, and refuse to surrender that judgment to individuals or special interest groups. The next one is avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest and refrain from using their board position for personal or partisan gain. Take no private action that will compromise the board or administration, and respect the confidentiality of the information that is privileged under applicable law. And remember always that the board members first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of the students attending our district. I encourage you board members to stand by this code of ethics that was created and follow through with that moving forward. And I wish you all a happy holiday. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor Francis.
Madam President and members of the board and cabinet, first, congratulations, Mr. Moore, for your recognition. Congratulations to the district and each of the schools for your A rating. I wish to speak to you this evening regarding transparency. I believe it an understatement to iterate that parents were left dissatisfied following last month's board meeting. Between protests, emails, letters, Facebook groups, phone calls, and public discourse, the resounding call among each is for more transparency. Some who herald the call may not even know for what it is they petition, or even what more transparency might look like. The resounding commonality with every plea is one for answers. We, the parents, just want to know something. What is going on? Yet, with the cries still echoing from the Power Rants incident, I see tonight on the agenda, item 5.4, where another teacher is being let go, this time from HHS. This particular case was made notable from an online journalist's report being circulated through several circles. And with the Power Ranch memory fresh in our minds, no official statements or answers from HUSD. And now a third incident at Bridges Elementary just last week. Rumors fly, speculations abound, but no word from HUSD. How many instances of school employees being relieved of duty for, well, we don't know why. But how many must we have? How many demonstrations or angry parents must we have before the school district provides something? Whether it is a question of not knowing how to communicate or refusal to communicate, something must change. Please do not ignore us. All we ask for is answers. Thank you.
Ms. Mindy Brocker.
course, 30 seconds before I walk up here, I managed to lose what I wrote, so speaking from the heart here. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you about why I love my public schools. This last month, we've been dealing with some issues with my oldest child. He's on the autism spectrum, diagnosed very early, around 3 years old. And so we've really been through the ringer. He's now almost 17 and a junior. And what I wanted to say today was that I've had some conflict with Higley and with different people in this district. But one thing I have never doubted about every person in this district, everyone that works here, is that they really, truly care. We may disagree sometimes, but you really, truly care. And so I wanted to say thank you. You know, one time I attempted to put my child into a private school, and they wouldn't take him. They rejected him. Despite taking Arizona dollars for Arizona students, non-public institutions can curate their students. They can curate their test results. And public schools cannot. But here at Higley, we were accepted with open arms. My child has not only learned, but he has grown. He has grown socially, he has grown emotionally, he has grown in responsibility and in ethics. And that is in no small part to every public educator that he has dealt with, who has worked with me to create an environment for that to happen. So I just wanted to say a special thank you to our Higley Unified School District, our special education department, and to our AP and honors instructors that really work with these kids that are sort of, they call them sometimes twice special, but unique, interesting, and impressive as hell, honestly, this kid. But it's because of this district, so thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our consent agenda items. I move that we approve 5.1 through 5.11.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Sorry. President Schultz, I had requested to move an item off the consent agenda. It was an expense voucher, and it was not removed. And unfortunately, because of that item not being removed, I have to vote no on the entire thing, which is really unfortunate. The one expense that I wanted moved was a book that was purchased, and the fact that the book is promoted by UNESCO and CASEL, and it utilizes those frameworks. Unfortunately, I cannot support that. So my vote is a no, only because of that book.
Motion carries 4-1. Information item 6.1, HUSD letter grades.
All right, good evening, President Schultz, members of the board, cabinet. It's my pleasure tonight to share with you our, a little bit more detail on our A through F letter grades this year. Do I have a clicker? Sorry. Reminder tonight, we're looking at Strategic Anchor 1, which is teaching and learning and student success. And specifically, we're focusing on Indicator 1.5, supporting a collaborative culture using data and research-based practices. As we saw earlier tonight with our banner, we are an A-rated district. And so I want to congratulate you, the board, as well as all of our students, staff, and families for earning an A this year. The A is calculated by adding the number of A schools, multiplying by 4, then adding the number of B schools, multiplying by 3, adding that together and dividing by the total number of schools, kind of like a GPA. And so that's where we get the 3.86 out of 4.0. 35% of LEAs in Arizona earned an A, 38% earned a B, 22% earned a C, 5% D, and then less than 1% of the school districts in the state earned an F. As a point of comparison, one of the districts that we score very closely to in AASA and ACT, Cave Creek, they also earned a 3.86. Looking at some of our neighboring school districts, you can see on this chart, we're on the far left, and then Chandler, Gilbert, Kyrene, Mesa, Queen Creek, and Scottsdale are all listed. The first column is the percentage of schools that are A, second is B, and then the following columns that we don't have are C's, D's, and F's. As a point of comparison in terms of that letter grade score, Chandler earned an A with a 3.59, Gilbert was an A with 3.52, Kyrene was an A with 3.54, Mesa was a B with 3.04, Queen Creek was an A at 3.64, and Scottsdale was the closest to us with an A at 3.72. So again, we are the highest performing district in the East Valley. Some highlights. Kolie Middle School, we want to congratulate them. They exited from what's called Additional Targeted Support and Improvement, which is a federal accountability status, by improving their special education performance this past spring. They were placed in that status last fall and were able to exit early this spring based on their performance this spring. Coronado, Cortina, and Sossaman all improved their letter grades from a B to an A. Huge improvement right there. Bridges Elementary is one of only 39 K-8 schools in the state to have a maximum of 30 points in the proficiency column of the K-8 letter grade calculation. Higley High, Williams Field were both highly rated as a whole. Higley High was the 12th highest scoring traditional 912 high school. Williams Field was the 27th highest percentage score. 100% of our schools earned an A or a B. It's very rare when looking at the typical public school districts within the state. And then Coronado Elementary, huge improvement for them. They had the highest improvement in all of our schools in the district, going from a B to an A with 11.38 percentage point increase. So congratulations to all of them. And as you go through, we have celebrations at every one of our sites, and they're doing amazing things across the board. We're gonna start with, hang on. So I'm missing a slide, but that's okay. What you see here is a pie. The letter grades are calculated by a, there are a number of things that the State Board of Education asked to look at when they were, when we were calculating letter grades. What they want to look at, what is like a student's grade, the letter grade is a summation, a collection of evidence, and not based on a single factor. So the State Board of Education, when creating our model, felt it was important to attempt to reflect the overall nature of a school and what the state expects out of a public school, which can be difficult to do when much of what a school does for students can't be numerically quantified. So the letter grades are their best attempt to provide hard data that can quantify what a school performance is. So 20%, 30% of a letter grade is proficiency on ASAA in the K-8 category. 50% is based on growth, and that's a student growth percentile where students are, their performance on AASA this year is compared to their peers from when they took AASA last year and the year before, and how much have they grown compared to that peer group. 10% is based on EL performance on the Azella test. That's only if you have 10 ELs. If you don't, they drop that out and you're out of 90 points. And then the final 10 points or 10 percentage points is based on acceleration and readiness. And that's a calculation that looks at multiple factors, including subgroup improvement, chronic absenteeism improvement, third and eighth grade ELA and math improvement, and special education inclusion. So there's a variety of points in that acceleration readiness category. There's also bonus points, special education enrollment. We get 2 bonus points for that if we're above the state average. And then AZ-SCI performance, we get points based on our performance compared to the state average there as well. Whoops. Oh, that was my slide. They just got flipped. So that's the one I wanted to show. Now it makes more sense. So we're going to start with Bridges. Bridges, you can see, earned an A with 92.02 points. As I've said earlier, one of the celebrations for Bridges is that proficiency score of 30 out of 30. Schools can actually earn more than 30 points, but it's capped at 30. So being one of the few schools in the state to be able to have that capped point value is phenomenal. Centennial earned an A with 87.83 points. Their growth score of 46.59 was the highest in the district. So kudos to Centennial and the work that they're doing in growing our students. Chaparral was an A with 90.85. As I mentioned earlier, that acceleration readiness category, they can make way more than 10 points with everything that's in there. It depends on how many subgroups you have. The subgroup performance, you're capped at 6, but there are probably at least 24 points available just in there. Chaparral earned an actual 31 points in that acceleration readiness category, largely due to the performance of what they've done with their subgroups. Kolie Middle School earned a B with 74.03 points. And again, as I shared earlier, they were able to exit that federal accountability due to improvements in special education, and that's in proficiency, growth, and chronic absenteeism. Coronado earned an A with 92.81. And again, they were the highest overall percentage increase in the district by that 11.38%. Cortina earned an A with 89.12 points. One of the bonus points is AZ-SCI. They are one of the few schools in our district to earn the full 3 points on AZ-SCI. They actually had the highest science passing rate in the school district with 63.39% of their students passing science this year. Gateway Point earned a B with 80 points. Again, in that acceleration readiness, those 10 points, there is a category for improving our minimally proficient third grade ELA, so actually decreasing the percentage of kids that are minimally proficient. And Gateway Point had the highest decrease in the district by 10% of students, fewer that were minimally proficient. Higley Traditional Academy earned an A with 93.05, and congratulations to them. They topped out the scores in the district. They were the highest scoring K-8 school in our district. Power Ranch earned an A with 86.70%. Again, hidden in that acceleration readiness is the chronic absenteeism decrease. Power Ranch saw their chronic absenteeism decrease by 6.5%, which is a huge decrease. Santan Elementary earned an A with 87.81 points. One of the areas within acceleration readiness is that subgroup improvement. Specifically, one of the subgroups are kids that are receiving free and reduced lunch. And that can be a hard group to see improvement from year to year in both ELA and math. Santan's one of the few schools that was able to do that in both ELA and math, improve both that subgroup in both areas. Sossaman earned an A with 84.24. Again, in that acceleration readiness area, 8th grade, they get points, 2.5 points for increasing highly proficient performance and decreasing minimally proficient performance in math. And they earned both the 2.5 points in both sections, so for a total of 5 points. So congratulations to Sossaman and their math department there. Moving on to the 9-12 model. 30% of the school's letter grade in 9-12 is proficiency on the ACT. 20% is based on subgroup improvement from last year. This is the new this year, and this is the only year by which they will be evaluated on that category. Next year, we will return to a student growth in that category using this year's juniors' performance on ACT Aspire as ninth graders. So they'll be looking at their growth from ACT Aspire to the ACT this year. And that will be consistent from here on out. The subgroup, I'll show you on the next slide the reason why. EL is 10%, graduation rate is 20%, and then the CCRI, which is the College and Career Readiness Index, that's a collection of measures. The college side is our kids passing national and state tests, so AP exams, ACT, SAT. Then there is a career side, so how are they doing in CTE? Are they passing CTE course sequences? Are they passing those CTE exams? And as I've shared earlier, our kids do phenomenal in the CTE. So that CCRI is a huge point value for us as well. And again, we get bonus points for science, special education enrollment, and then participation in ACT Aspire. Sometimes it's hard to get kids to come to tests, and so at the high school level, they're getting rewarded for having 95% or more of their kids there on the test day and actually take the test. So as I mentioned, subgroup is 20% this year. This past year's juniors, so this year's seniors, the last time they took a state test was in 2019 as seventh graders. And so being able to calculate that growth from seventh grade AZ merit, I think it was at that point in time, all the way up to ACT as juniors, that felt like that would be a valid calculation. And so the state board decided to go this year with subgroup improvement. And so what they did is they looked at all of the eligible subgroups at the high school. And an eligible subgroup is any subgroup that has more than 10 students in it. And so subgroup proficiency improvement from last year's ACT performance to this year's ACT performance was 10 points. And they looked at the number of eligible groups that we had on the denominator side, and then the numerator side is the number of subgroups that actually showed improvement. So if we had 10, we got 5 out of 10, that would be 50%. Multiply that 0.5 times 10, we got 5 points there, if that was the case. Subgroup graduation rate improvement is another 5 points, calculated the same way, and the same thing for subgroup dropout rate improvement. So Higley High School earned an A with 95.9 points. Again, they were the number 12 traditional 912 high school in the state. Something that I didn't mention, and you'll see this when we get to Higley Virtual Academy, there are K-8s, and there's a scoring system for them. That's the reason why the cut scores are different for 912 than they were for the K-8s. Then there are traditional 912 schools that are comprehensive high schools that only serve a population of 9th through 12th graders. Then we have a large swath, particular charter schools, but also some of our neighboring districts of schools that serve, in addition to 912, they serve 7th and 8th, or 6th through 8th, or even K through 8. They're called a hybrid, and they are scored a little bit different. So when I say we're the number 12 traditional high school, that means in comparing us to all other traditional 912 comprehensive high schools. So Higley High was 95.9 with an A. Williams Field was at a 91.97. That CCRI score, they went up by 2.1 points compared to how they had done last year, which is a huge increase. That calculation is hard to get to that higher score. And then Higley Virtual Academy. This is their first year with the letter grade. Again, when we say hybrid, that means they're getting points on the K-8 side and they get points on the 912 side. You'll see that they don't have all of the categories represented in the pie charts. That's because, again, they still have to have that end count of 10 students. So for example, on the 912 side, they only had 9 juniors take the ACT last year. Mr. Dolan enrolls a lot more kids than that in his program, but those kids are primarily attending Higley High School or Williams Field High School. We're only looking at kids that are full-time attendance at HVA that count into their letter grade. But this gives you an idea of how he did with our K-8 side. And then the 9-12, this is what those hybrid schools like ALA, North, Eastmark, those kinds of schools, they're operating under the same kind of model as we are. So the percentage of kids in the K-8 and the percentage of 9-12, that then factors into the points that they receive. One of the two things for HVA, number one, virtual schools don't get A's. If you look at our neighboring districts, they are B's and C's for their virtual schools. It's very rare for a virtual school to earn an A. So that right there is a kudo to the work that Mr. Dolan and his staff do. And then that growth score of a perfect 50 out of 50 as well. I really wanted to call that out because that's amazing work that they're doing. Next up, it's small, and I apologize for that. But this is how we did in relation to our K-8 charter schools that are within our boundaries. There's a dark vertical line on the far right side of the chart. That is the cut point for an A. So anything to the right of that line are schools that earned an A. Anything to the left would be schools that earned a B or C. And you'll see there are some sites in there that are that hybrid model. They will show up on both charts. So what I am able to do is pull out their K-8 scores and show you how the K-8 side scored on the K-8 model, and then I can show you how the 9-12 side scored on the 9-12 side. So we can kind of compare how our elementaries and our middle schools are doing compared to their elementary middle school component, and their comprehensive high school side is doing against our comprehensive high schools. So for example, Ben Franklin High School has a 7th and 8th grade, so that's the score that their 7th and 8th grade earned. American Leadership Academy, Gilbert North is a K-12. That's their K-8 earning score that they earned, for example. And then finally, we have our 9-12 charter comparisons. Again, that dark line is the cut score between an A and a B. And these are the charters that you find within our boundaries.
Mr. Berkshire?
Sure.
Sorry, just one quick question. When you, back at the last chart, are they graded on the same scale, even though they're non-traditional? Is this data?
So let me go back to actually HVA. So they are graded using the same criteria. Again, they have to have the end counts to get points within a category. But what happens is, for example, if I've got 100 kids total, and 25 of those kids are in the K-8, and 75 of those kids are in the 9-12, 25% of my points are gonna come from the K-8 point value. So whatever I earn on the K-8 side, multiply that by 0.25. And then 9-12, whatever I earn on that side, multiply that by 0.75, add those two numbers together. And then they're evaluated on the high school, traditional 9-12 scale, so which is lower than the K-8 scale. The cut for an A is 82. On the K-8 scale, the cut is an 84.
Okay, so just so I'm reading it correctly, such as like Benjamin Franklin, it's rated on the 9 through 12 scale. Correct.
So
even
Ben
their 7th
Franklin
grade graders, so
here-
they get an easier
It
scale.
depends. Yes, they have fewer points that they need to earn in order to earn an A, but it depends on what percentage of their students that they are serving is in that category. So my Ben Franklin did earn an overall B this year. You can see that their 7th, 8th grade did not perform very well. Probably, I don't know the percentages. They don't share that information in the data file that they share with us. But my guess would be probably that 7th and 8th grade is probably about 40% of their population. And then when you look at the 9th through 12th grade, that's about 60%. So if they had just had the 9th through 12th, they probably would have been an A. But because that 7th and 8th grade was so low and weighted fairly heavily, it pulled them down enough that they earned a B overall.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So before I go into the last part here, I just want to share with you a lot of the information that I pull and the work that I do, I couldn't do without the team that I work with. And since he's here in the audience today, I have to call him out, and I've called him out before. So I just want to say thank you to Brian Campbell for the work that he does. Well, we couldn't do what we do without him here. So I appreciate him being here. And he's even wearing a tie and a jacket. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I hope that as a school board, you recognize the work that our staff, our students, our families put in to earn these letter grades, and that you represent the highest performing district in the East Valley. And we are among the highest performing districts in the whole state of Arizona. It's quite an accomplishment. It's a large responsibility as well, but I'm proud of being here and the work that we get to do every day. And while we celebrate these achievements internally and externally, we also want to share with you that we are all committed to continuous improvement. And I'm excited that based on the work that all of us are doing from the district level down to the site, down to the classroom level, I believe we'll be able to continue to share these celebrations with you for many years into the future. So with that, I will pause for questions.
Questions? I mean, it's amazing. Thank you. I know, and it's a very high A for the district. So kudos again to all of the district and admin and teachers. Questions? Comments?
President Schultz, I do have a question. As far as the two schools that have Bs, and I'm sorry if you already answered this throughout the presentation, but so what needs to happen in order for those two Bs to come up to an A?
There's a lot of different factors there. Proficiency, both Gateway and Kolie, there's some room for growth in terms of AASA performance right there. We get points based on partially proficient, proficient, and highly proficient. And so it's really diving down. One of the advantages that we have with our DNA assessment platform is we are able to administer what they're called mimics. They mimic the state test, and those have been calibrated by Renaissance to look at if you perform here on our test, this is what we believe you'll perform on the state test. So we've administered that twice this year. We'll do it one more time in February. That gives us an idea of where kids currently are, and we can use that to compare to where they were. So that gives our teachers some actionable information right there that these are kids that I need to target to help improve just that proficiency side. The other part is that student growth. That one's harder to quantify because we're being compared to growth by students from around the state. And a student growth percentile basically says, if I started out at this score as a third grader, I'm being compared to every other kid across the state that had that same exact score. And the kid that had the highest scale score growth is going to be at the 99th percentile. The kid that had the lowest is going to be at the first. And so I don't know how the other kids around the state are performing, so I can't quantify that. But the conversations that I get to have with principals in terms of that data culture and how we're identifying those priority standards and looking at common formative assessments and all of that collaborative work that our sites are doing around standards and skills, that really helps address, at least we believe internally, based on the data we're getting, we're seeing tremendous growth. Our hope is that we are more rigorous in our expectations and what we're looking for than everybody else around us. So we're at that 99th percentile rather than that first. So those are the two big ones, growth and proficiency. There are definitely some areas in that acceleration readiness that we have to be looking at. Chronic absenteeism is worth 2 points. It's not a whole lot, but just making sure that we are aware of who those kids are and that we're having those conversations and trying to ensure that we're decreasing that number with our Acadians and Fastbridge screener, looking at those minimally proficient third grade ELA kids at Gateway, And something similar we can be doing with Kolie with the 8th grade, highly proficient, minimally proficient. So there are a lot of different factors. And I know that the principals, we've already sat down with them and talked to them about those scores and areas that they can improve in. And it's kind of site dependent. So we'd really have to bring them up to kind of talk about what they're doing. But there's a lot of different ways that we can address that and work through all those.
Congratulations to all schools, students, teachers, parents. It's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and it looks really good. But I just wanted to make a comment regarding Kolie because I taught there, and I just want to give an extra shout out to those teachers and that staff because they are some of the strongest, hardest working teachers I've ever worked with. Everybody can easily say that middle school is difficult to teach, and most people, whether they've taught it or not, would, yes, absolutely, and it is. But I just wanted to make a public comment about the Kolie teachers. Phenomenal, and congratulations on doing well. No doubt that this is going to continue to improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. I agree with you. As a mom of a middle schooler, I can't imagine. It's a big change from 6th grade to 7th grade and their feelings towards school sometimes. One thing I wanted, did you mention when we talked about the high schools and where we ranked, how many schools were in the district? I know that, did you already mention that if I missed it?
I didn't.
Okay.
So when I said that we're number 12 and number 27, there are 230 traditional 9-12 schools in the state. And it's harder to quantify the hybrid numbers. There are 123 hybrid schools. So I don't know whether all of them are 7-12. Some of them could be 6-8 or 6-9, that kind of thing. So trying to add them into the equation. But 230 traditional comprehensive 9-12 schools. Higley High is in the top 10% right there, and Williamsfield is in that top 20%. So again, great work to both of them.
Yes, awesome, amazing work. And even in the hybrids, even just looking at the surrounding from your charts, it appears we're quite a bit ahead of them as well, even though they don't count as part of it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. We are moving on to 6.2, Educational Services, Inc. presentation.
Good evening, President Schultz, members of the board. Tonight, we're going to talk about Educational Services, Inc. This is the company that we utilize for substitutes and retire to rehire program. So, as I said, they supply us with certified subs, classified subs, and they are a conduit to the retire to rehire program. They are a huge source for the Valley for class or certified subs. And the reason that they are a great source for us is that they do the work for us. So they recruit, hire, and onboard candidates. They track and pay out paid sick time. They manage benefits eligibility. They handle all our substitute questions regarding any employment and pay because the sub is employed through ESI. And they manage employee relations issues for us as well. Next. As you can see, they serve over 60 school districts throughout Arizona, and their subs have many options and opportunities. And I'll share a little bit why they come to Higley in a minute. Our fill rates currently for this month, the month of November, were 99%. We filled. They filled it for us. They assisted with that. We have very high fill rates. For the certified staff, we were at 93%, and that's almost unheard of because that's mostly paras. So we're doing great with, they're helping us and doing great with that. They provide us with 24/7 customer service. I can call them at any time. Our HR assistant that works closely with them and our assistant director of HR also works closely with them. They are fully automated. They partner with us. They're not just a vendor out there doing their own thing. They're actually partnering with Higley to make sure that we're provided the service that we need to accommodate our kids in the classroom, making sure that our fill rates are high. They provide us flexibility when needed, spur-of-the-moment subs. They also, there is training and development for the employees that work for ESI. The subs, both certified and classified, can do online training if they so choose to do that. So they provide some additional training for them as well. Just a couple other numbers. Our current fill rate for December is 98% at this moment, and we're what, December 13th, so we're doing pretty good. So the retire to rehire program, that is, ESI provides a service to the district to allow an employee to retire when it is their time to retire, but also someone who is not quite ready to retire. They'd still like to contribute more to the district, to their classroom, or as an administrator, any position really. So retire to rehire allows us to have great employees stay with us. We get to retain them. It retains knowledge base, it retains experience, and it retains consistency at all of our schools and throughout the district. How it works. Now, this is a complicated slide, so I'm going to break it down for you a little bit. ESA is allowed to retain our great employees, and it provides us with gap. It's basically when an employee is ready to retire after they've completed their time within the ASRS, which is the Arizona State Retirement, they have to do a waiting period of 365 days before they can work full-time for an ASRS employer. So ESI provides them a mechanism to come back to work immediately because they're not working for the ASRS employer. They're working for ESI, but they may be placed at one of our sites, one of our schools, at the district office, depending on what position they held. They can't work for that 12 months unless it's just part-time, which I think one of the questions was, do we have any part-time folks doing that? No, we do not. We're not in the business of using ESI for part-time employees. We bring back full-time employees, and I'll discuss their rates and everything in a minute, but we only bring back the full-time employee through ESI for the 1-year period, and that's the only year that they're allowed to use ESI. They provide a kind of a hassle-free zone where we don't have to be concerned with, their insurance benefits or paying ASRS any longer as a district. There we go. So how it works, as you're looking at it from the employee's perspective, they apply to be on ESI. Only retiring employees can use ESI. This isn't for an employee that worked for us a year and then wants to go on ESI. It's just for retirees. So the employee would go through HR and through their supervisor and put in a notice saying, I'd like to transfer to ESI. That is reviewed, and then if it's approved, the employee's notified either way. They start on ESI on July 1. Now, there is one exception to that. If you remember back when school used to start in August, we have some teachers that have been with us that long that they started in August, and that was their first day. So we may have to make a couple exceptions there if those folks are interested. But normally an employee would start July 1 through June 30, depending on their contract too, if it's a 9, 10, 12-month contract. So after 1 year of being with ESI and being paid through ESI, then they would have to make a decision whether they want to just exit the organization completely, Higley Unified School District, or if they'd like to come back and teach for us again or work for us in another capacity. So if they make that decision, then they have to put that request in as well. And then we approve or deny that request based on the needs of the district at the time. We're always looking at what the needs are, right? So that would be reviewed at that point. On the next slide, you'll see what the district actually pays each employee. These are based on 3 different employee groups: the certified teacher, the classified employee, and administrators. So if someone is interested in doing this, we look at what employee group they fit into, and then there is a decision made, and then this is what they would be paid. So if an employee were to leave us this coming June 30 in 2024, they would leave us at the salary they're currently at minus 20% of that. Only 80% of that salary is what they would get if they transferred into ESI employment. So there's a savings of 20% there. They're still eligible if it says under their employee group for performance pay or supplemental pay. They're still eligible for that pay at the full rate. The district saves just a little over 12% on the ASRS cost, and the employee gets no increase to their salary for that year, as I stated. And then if they decide that they'd like to come back and we approve that there would be no increase to their salary, although they would return to 100% of the salary that they left at. So the other savings to the district too is, for the 1 year, is the savings on the health insurance. We would no longer be paying for their health insurance. They are obliged to find that either through ASRS or ESI or a spouse or something of that nature. It just depends on their circumstances. So as you can tell, all employee groups are only paid 80% of their wage that they leave at for that 1 year on ESI. And that helps us as an employer to pay for the cost of using ESI services. More, there we go. Okay. So currently, this is just a salary. I took 60,000, nice round number, right? If they were to continue as an HUSD employee, they would be at 60,000. If they moved to ESI for the 1 year, it would be a $48,000 salary. The cost to us under the 60,000 is just over 12%, and I rounded it just for purposes of the slide. But that cost for HUSD is $7,200 for ASRS. There's no fee, of course, in that column because we're not paying ESI yet. And then the medical, we took the high deductible plan. I used that as the number of what the district currently pays per employee, and that's $6,636. So as you can see, it comes to $73,836. If the employee were on ESI for 1 year, the $48,000, and the fee for ESI next year will be 18.5% for the return to work. So that's the number I used as $8,880. And we don't have to pay the medical. We don't pay ASRS. So actually, we're reducing our costs. As you can see, the number is $56,880. Now, keep in mind, yes, Board Member Wade?
Sorry, I was going to say you can finish that. Just for a point of clarification, and I'm sorry because I'm not feeling my best. They can only stay on ESI 1 year, and then that's when they make the decision from there?
That is
either
correct.
coming back, and let's pretend for a second that they do come back, would they come back as a regular employee?
Yes.
Okay.
So they would come back at the salary of $60,000, what they left at. We would not be paying ASRS 12%. At that point, bringing back a retiree, it's about 10% is all we pay. And then, of course, they could be on the medical again.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I understood.
No problem. Thank you for the question. So this is the end. Questions at this point? More questions?
President Schultz.
Oh, the budget question, sure. So there was a question earlier today, and the question was, is the ESI, the agreement like that we have currently with them for what was approved by the board, $2 million, does that include the retire to rehire employees? Yes, it does. Because of the fact, the way the procurement rules is we have to, even those are on separate POs, it has to be combined because we're using one vendor. So we have to acknowledge how much we are spending with that one vendor. So we have authority right now to spend up to $2 million this year, but that does include, we currently have 5 people on retire to rehire as well as our subs. And one of them is actually coming off in January. And so there'll be 4 people after January. So right now, that amount is included in the $2 million. And that's just, you have to remember when you're talking about 5 people and their salaries, those salaries would have been paid anyway, because we would have needed to hire somebody to replace them if they didn't, if they didn't go to ESI. Other questions?
I was just going to ask, and I know it's probably an unfair question, and I'm sorry. This is new to me. Do you know how much the district has used the retire to rehire?
I don't believe it's used it that much, but I see it as a mechanism of people moving to retirement, then to ESI, and then making that decision. There are other districts that use it. Originally, it was created because there was such a shortage of teachers. And it gave them the opportunity to kind of retire, but yet still teach. A lot of these folks entered the workforce in their early 20s, right out of college, and you're not quite ready at 30 years to, leave the organization, maybe leave your career. So it was a mechanism that was created a while back.
Thank you for sharing the information and kind of explaining how it works. Like I said, the retire to rehire, this was new to me to find out this is what we were doing, because every time we've referenced ESI, it has always regarded substitutes. So I was unaware that we were utilizing it in this fashion. So thank you for putting this together and explaining it.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
President Schultz, Ms. Johnson, we did increase this twice, right? The funding
Last year,
for this?
yes, we did. It was twice, yes, last fiscal year. This year, we'll bring you a report for the next quarter, and you can see where our spending is at that point. I believe that would be in January, yes. So you should see us back with a report in January.
I could have sworn we voted twice to increase.
Last year.
But I wasn't here last year, but for.
I mean, in the spring, it did happen twice because that was up through June 30th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Yeah, last school year, not 2022.
Right.
Okay,
Fiscal
thank
year.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Moving on to to 6.3, Williamsfield High School track and field replacement. Mr. Moore?
Yes, President Schultz, members of the board. Typically, we don't bring purchases through information and action, but it's been our practice with these major projects to take the opportunity to highlight the process, as this is a high dollar amount and one of our major projects that was approved on the tentative capital plan by the board. So I have a short presentation tonight to go over the Williamsfield track and field replacement. Just a little background, Williamsfield High School opened in 2007. I think Marcus did a great job of sharing a lot of the accolades and why they're rated by U.S. News and World Reports as one of the best high schools. They are A-rated, accredited. There's over 53 sports and clubs that participate on this campus. And approximately, at any given point during a year, 700, student athletes with various, your spring sports, your football, your soccer in their winter, fall sports is football, winter soccer, spring track, and then you also include band. A number of student bodies utilize this area, and it is a focal point on that campus on Friday nights as well. So a little history on the track and field in particular. That track is original. Again, opened 2007, so that track is original since 2007, so it's 16 years old. It has been resurfaced a couple times, but that is the original concrete pour. A couple highlights to shout out the track program over there. The 2021, the D2, the girls finished runner-up in the Division II championship, and then just last year, they had a stellar athlete come through, Sarah Prince. She graduated last year in 23, but she sets 2 Arizona state records in the 100-meter hurdles and 300-meter hurdles. Those are current state records with Williamsfield's name on them. So stellar athlete that has gone through that program. In terms of the field side, the synthetic turf was installed in 2015. Originally, that field was grass, and then that 2015 was the first year for turf. So that makes it 9 years old. And then our football program, 2-time state championships, both in 2016 and 19. And so when the district decided to go to that synthetic field turf in 2015, you can see on the far right there some of the benefits of synthetic turf. Synthetic turf fields have resulted in an increase in safety and playability. They reduce maintenance costs, and then it's year-round play, right? We're not shutting it down to either winter seed. We're not at any given point having to fix irrigation leaks. It's year-round play, and in Arizona, when we have the 300 days of summer, right? It is utilized often and regularly. So another benefit on why a lot of Arizona schools have moved to synthetic turf on their main football field. So diving into the process for this field and track and field replacement. So I know it's been a while, but back in April 5th, 2023, it's been our practice to bring forward our tentative capital plans for the following fiscal year. And so the board did approve on April 5th. We had mentioned in that plan a major project being the replacement of this track and field. In some of the planning, we've been very, this first pretty much 6 months of the year has been a lot of planning for this replacement. We've been very methodical in our approach, and so that first bullet, we conducted a geotechnical evaluation of the soil. I believe I attached that report to the action item later, and it's a long report, but let me summarize that for you. Essentially, it says we built on farmland and that the soil is unstable. So what that report kind of resulted in was indicating that a lot of the west part of the field and the north part of our field had higher elevations than other areas on the field. And so what that creates is an uneven playing field. It also results, if you walk our track or if you've been on our track or field, you'll see large cracks, you'll see foundation breaks. And so a part of that is the soil that's underneath that. And so one of the, in result of that evaluation, that test, one of our recommendations, you'll see in the bid, is to not only rip the field up, but rip the track, rip the concrete up, and then go down and dig another 2 to 3 feet into the soil, restabilize that soil, and then start building up from there. On the bullet point 2, we also conducted a GMAX testing. I got a crash course into understanding synthetic turf safety through this process. And so the GMAX testing kind of measures shock absorption on a synthetic turf field. And so those test results are rated on a scale from 0 to 200, 0 being a very plush, soft surface. It's almost like if you're stepping on like a foam cushion pad, right? That's not typically playable. So there's generally a rating right in the middle, either from like 190 to like 120, in which you want to be, because it also then you have the shock absorption, but you also have a firmness to step on it, make cuts, etc. Williams-Field's test results came back. I averaged 197. They measured 10 different spots, several spots over 215. What that means is a massive safety concern for our student athletes or anybody using that field who is taking a hit, whether it's a football player or a soccer player sliding down. The probability of a concussion or a serious injury greatly intensifies when there is no shock absorption. So basically, it says that field is hard as a rock, and and due for replacement. Essentially, we knew that. We did, though, want to go through and make sure we did our due diligence to make sure that this was exactly due up for replacement, and was worse than what we anticipated. It probably should have been replaced last year, but we wanted again to do our due diligence as this is a high dollar item. The third bullet point, throughout some of these conversations, we had multiple meetings. Mr. Fox, Daryl Stengel, Gustavo Landeros, our director of facilities, as well as Coach Campbell, several of the track coaches. I mean, this is their field, this is their school, and so obviously you'll see throughout our decision processes, none of those are made in a silo. We share out, and we want our feedback from our schools. This is a place they utilize, they live on. And so several of those meetings that we had had some logistical changes, which I'll cover when we look at the pictures. It's easier to explain there. But again, another opportunity of planning and making completely an educated decision for the future of this program and not just looking at it in a micro kind of sense. The procurement, the district issued a request for quotation. We received 3 prospective bidders. The recommended bidder of General Acrylics is again recommended later in this agenda. The 2 other bidders, Elite Sports Builders, was very close in price. There were some different, when we evaluated this bid, there was not just price, we evaluated the plan, the method of approach, a little bit of the bidder's history, the individuals that were going to be responsible for doing the field. And so it was very close between General Acrylics and Elite Sports Builders. The third bidder, Hellas, was about $1 million above, so that was an easy decision in terms of price and then just feasibility. Construction, we have slated pending board approval to go on 2/26 through 6/30. Because of the extensive work with the soil, that we would be displacing track and moving them to Higley. We have worked with, again, Mr. Stengel, Mr. Dilly at Higley High to make sure there's accommodations at Higley High for that Williams-Field track program, as well as if we need to bus, or maybe it's just an extra warm-up. It's pretty close. I'm just kidding. But if they need busing, we will make that accommodation. But yeah, it would displace track and field for the spring and then be open, scheduled to open in the next school year, 2025. So with that, I'll look at some of the renditions. And talk about some of the logistical changes that we're kind of recommending. So your current track and field here, some of the areas I'll highlight are the left side of the field or the south side of the field. You'll see the square track pad there. On the new proposed rendition, we're looking at making that a full, they call it a D zone. And that red line is an indication of pole vault. That's where we'll bring pole vault up to the field, and then that will be an area for pole vault and high jump. Coming back on the far north side of the field or right side of the photo, you'll see long jump and triple jump be there. They would now be moved down to where pole vault was, which is, if I've had a bigger picture, but it'd be on the just north of the track on the northwest side. And that moving that down there gives them their own space. We were having issues with sand coming into the turf on the previous rendition. Elevations had to be different to accommodate the pits, so you can keep the sand in the sand pit. So by moving this way, it makes a lot of sense. It also gives that whole turf area extra use. So Coach Campbell had some ideas of putting some drills down there and allowing another area for his players, as well as another area for soccer players to do different various drills on a turf surface. So. And then lastly, the obvious ones are the new colors, right? We got some, taking the opportunity to continue to push school branding. You can color tracks. That is a possibility. And so the gray represented here is a little lighter than what is actually going to be put in place. It's more of a charcoal gray. The rendition is not showing 100% correctly, but it'll be more of a charcoal gray, and that red is going to be a kind of a Williamsfield red. Those are called the exchange zones. So when they do relays, those zones will now be clearly marked and highlighted. And in the field, that's all Coach Campbell. You have, it's called a watermelon kind of style, where each 5-yard line is a different color. I guess it's the new hip thing to do. And then some of the designs, again, taking another opportunity to add on the far bottom of the field, Williamsfield, and their slogan, Dominate. And then on the west side of the field, Williamsfield Dominates. So that is it for me. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take any questions.
It's really pretty. It looks really nice. And I'm so glad that has gotten hurt. So really fast, we're done practicing on it then, right, with track and field, or soccer's finishing up?
Well, we'll have soccer finish up as the season has already started, and talking with Mr. Sengel, displacing them in addition to track, it's just, we don't have the procurement done. There's a lot of work to be done. So soccer will continue to play on that field throughout February 26th, which is the end of their season. So yeah, we have one more sport to go through.
Okay, thank you.
President Schultz, Mr. Moore, do we have planned phases for the project?
It's all one phase. I mean, there's within the construction timeline, there's various phases of demo, and a lot of those. What we've worked closely with the Williamsfield team to establish a timeline. We're still laying out a lot of those plans, like where they're going to put their staging, right, and how we can keep students safe. So a lot of that is still in motion. We didn't want to get too ahead of ourselves, as we still are waiting for governing board approval on this to start really engaging with that contractor and establishing temporary fencing and stuff like that. So.
And is the new product that's going to be used, does that have like a longer lifespan than what we currently use?
Yeah, so the new product we'll be using would be rated within that 0 to 200 scale, brand new. It would come in about 100, 110. It's a shock pad that goes underneath the surface. Currently, there's a rubber, fill underneath the current surface, but that does provide an 8-year warranty. And then I believe if they service it over the 8 years, that they'll extend it up to 2 years. Depending on testing and stuff like that. So it could be up to 10-year warranty on the field. The track itself is a 10-year warranty.
And the warranty includes the maintenance?
No, the maintenance is the responsibility of the district. So in the recommendation on the action item, we have included 2 years of maintenance. That is the extent of which they'll commit to initially. After 2 years, they'll obviously want to test and make sure that we are doing our due diligence as well. It's not just solely on the contractor to upkeep the field. We also, as a school district, have to do our upkeep. And so after 2 years, then we have an option to do annual maintenance with the vendor and maintain that warranty status.
And do we see like long-term costs being more than what we're currently paying on the existing?
Actually, they might go down. Some of the new technology with the infill actually does not need water to cool it. The cooling technology and the advancements with the synthetic turf have grown exponentially since the 9 years in which this was initially installed. And so some of the new stuff that doesn't even need water to cool, so that is actually saving on the little bit of water usage that is utilized currently. So in general, since we already have a synthetic turf field, this is part of the expectation when you start that every 10 years to evaluate that cost. But we are not watering this field. I haven't done a complete cost savings on turf to synthetic turf, or excuse me, grass to synthetic turf, but
Thank you. I like the fact that it's got the cooling technology because that grass can get extremely hot during the summer. Thank you.
Mrs. Reese.
President Schultz, just a note regarding the soil. We also had issues with the school that had to be addressed because of the soil, so there's no surprise that it's uneven and unstable. It was previously that had to be addressed within the school. So summer for football camps, band camps, is there a thought process to, I mean, yes, we can move track, obviously, for their season that you guys have worked out, but those fall sports utilize those fields for the summer. And so that's almost coming right up to when school starts.
Yeah, President Schultz, Member Reese, I'm actually going to have Mr. Stengel answer that because these conversations are happening. Like in that planning phase, we have been intentional to start having these conversations, and Mr. Stengel has worked on some plans for some of those areas that I think he can provide some insight.
President Schultz, members of the board, we have met multiple times, and it's not going to be easy, obviously, because we have such little real estate at Williams Field to deal with as it is. But we'll have the ability to. I mean, we still have a magnificent weight room where they'll be able to do all their training. We have the outfield of the JV baseball field, which we can convert to a practice football field, a practice facility that's not used by baseball during the summer. So baseball will move all their stuff up to the varsity baseball field, and we'll utilize that space. And then if this project goes as according to plan, then we should be fine by the time band camp comes back for them to, they'll be the first ones that'll actually get to utilize it for their camp. So hopefully we've addressed all of the, all the issues and all the concerns. Nobody's completely happy, but we're not going to be. It's a little bit of sacrifice for a lot of reward.
And I know too, at some point there was discussion that when the field was replaced, that it would be replaced and turned the way it was meant to be, with the home side on the west side, not on the east side. I see the rendition here of the logo that's facing that east side. Was there any further discussion of fixing and putting it the way it was intentionally supposed to be?
Yeah, President Schultz, Member Reese, that was one of the first things I think we talked about. You hit a sensitive topic with Williamsville. So we did have some conversations. Unfortunately, every other, you talk the press box, everything is on the east side of the field. And so looking budgetarily, we did not budget for modifying or replacing the bleachers in the press box on the other side. And we did look at some numbers that they're extensive to do that. So currently the renditions are showing as is. We did talk, obviously, master planning in a perfect world, yes, we switched that with our current layout and our current limitations with funds. If the home side, if they weren't going to sit over there, then we weren't going to move it. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? That's right, Dale. We just because of the master, we just could not flip those bleachers in the press box, and so they weren't going to sit over there. So we just left the home side on this side. And that's the current conversation. Yeah.
I just know it was kind of, field's going to have to be replaced, and maybe when we do that, we'll fix the way it was supposed to be. But I get it, there is cost to that, and so I was just asking for clarification.
Yeah, I know that that's in our master planning, within our larger conversations with capital planning and Williamsfield in particular, there, renovations and campus renovations. So I imagine that will be a conversation in the, capital project with the bond committee, or citizens committee, excuse me. And so that is a greater master planning need, but with the limitation of funds right now, it was not flipped, so.
President Schultz, Board Member Reese, I think that Williamsfield being closer to the park, like home, being closer to the parking lot, I think a lot of people are in favor of that versus having to walk all the way across to the other side. So they rather make visitors walk all the way across.
They have the sun in their face and they can't see.
That is true. That's one downside.
That is the big part of that. And the initial plan was that the west side was supposed to be the home side. So
which is typical, right?
Yes.
Mrs. Reese, thank you for clarifying that, because I actually said to Mrs. Anderson, I don't understand why we would care if we were on the other side. But, oh, okay. I think I stand at the fence line usually, so maybe I don't make my way.
A good portion of the games. I mean, it's the time of the games is sunset, so I mean, it's hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is hot, I will give you that. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anything else?
I had a question.
I'm sorry.
It kind of segues off of Ms. Reese's question. Not only for band camps and everything, but will we lose any revenue for rentals for that field as well? I don't know how much it gets rented during that time, but I'm sure you guys looked at that. I was just
Yeah, I mean,
curious.
we've had a block in our facilities management system. We've had to block those for any future rentals for that time period. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a cost benefit, right? But like I think Mr. Stengel mentioned, it's a little bit of, I guess, give for a lot of reward, right? This field will be, it is in need. And so there's no perfect timing. When you're trying to block out 4 to 6 months on a high school campus, there is no perfect timing. And so we felt this was the best timing in the grand scheme of things. So.
Of course, not arguing that. Assuming it gets approved tonight, the communication will go out to our usuals as far as those that normally use the field, just that way, because I'm sure the changes are pretty big, trying to find sites similar, familiar.
Yeah, and President Schultz mentioned those conversations have already started. Those started in our initial planning phases. A lot of it will now be just finalizing that, like, yes, this will be closed from this time. But those conversations have started, and a lot of that initial talk has been initiated, I guess, what I'm trying to say, so.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Moving on to 6.4, BEDBA Agenda Preparation and Dissemination, first read. Ms. Collin or Mrs. Richards?
President Schultz, members of the board, we have a board member, Ms. Van Hook, that has proposed some changes to this policy. So I don't know if she would like to discuss that.
Thank you. So I asked to bring this policy up for discussion because we used to get the agendas on Friday, the Friday before the meeting, and had to have our questions turned in by Monday before the meeting. And that policy was changed by one individual board member, and now we receive the agenda on Thursday before the meeting with our questions due by end of day on Sunday. And because that's not how policy changes work, I wanted to bring this policy up for discussion and a vote. And so the proposed policy change aims to streamline the preparation process, allocate more time for thoughtful consideration, and promote a balanced and sustainable approach to board service. This will be achieved by allowing board members ample time to review agenda items, enabling them to spend the weekend with family and attend to personal commitments. The policy proposes changing the day we receive the agenda to Wednesday instead of Thursday. And that gives board members more time to carefully consider, research agenda items, and prepare for the meeting. Shifting the day from Thursday to Wednesday not only grants board members the opportunity to dedicate their weekends to personal and family time, sorry, I lost my place. It grants board members the opportunity to dedicate their weekends and to personal family time, which is crucial for those of us juggling full-time jobs alongside our unpaid board responsibilities. And administration will still have until Tuesday to respond to the agenda questions, where before they were getting the questions on Monday and had to provide the answers by Tuesday. So this way they get the 2 days. And this is already in practice. I'm just asking that it be added to the policy. And I believe that this change will contribute to the overall effectiveness of board meetings and ensures that decisions are made with a thorough understanding of the agenda items. And one thing that I would like to add to the proposed policy is a line for like a 24-hour notice for emergency meetings if we have to have an emergency meeting, to add that verbiage in there as well. That's currently not in the proposed policy. Now, would you like me to, Jennifer, do you want me to read this? Sorry, Ms. McClellan. Or do you want me to read this, or do you want to read it?
Madam President, Ms. Van Hook, I'm not quite sure. You mean read the proposed
Just to go over
changes?
the proposed policy.
I think the changes are on the screen in front of you. So my understanding is the proposed changes are in red. Ms. Van Hook's comments are in purple. And if I understand correctly, you want to add an item that would also address the ability to hold an emergency meeting with only 24 hours prior. So,
okay, thank you.
President Schultz?
Grace?
Looking at I guess it's the third paragraph where it had said 24 hours and it was switched to 5 working days. And Ms. McClellan help on from a legal standpoint. The way I read the initial one is that way if there is something added to the agenda per se and or something changed that we can't, by law, we can't change it within 24 hours anyway. So I think the 24 hours there was kind of referring to that. I didn't read it as the standard board packet. So I don't know. I think the 24 hours was probably there because we can't get anything less than 24 hours because once it's posted 24 hours before our meeting, it's posted. So I don't know. I just noticed that. So if we from a legal standpoint, because we can't get anything less than 24 hours. Do we leave that and then make a separate one to request our typical board packet, no less than 5 working days?
So, Madam President, Ms. Reese, I think you have hit on a concern with the proposed changes, which is that the open meeting law requires that there are no changes to the agenda in the time period that are 24 hours prior to the meeting. There is not any exception in the current language proposed that would allow the administration to add something to a board agenda within that 24-hour period. So the proposed language would have the cause and effect of extending that 24-hour period to a 5 working day period. And that would potentially hamper your administration and their ability to place items on the agenda if needed within that time period.
So knowing what my intention is here, are you able to assist me with language to be able to allow them that opportunity, but still ensure that it states that we can't change anything after the 24 hours, and with what the original language purpose is, but still be able to say to get the agenda 5 working days prior to the meeting?
Madam President, Ms. Van Hook, I'd be happy to assist in trying to fashion something for this is up for first read. I can try to assist and fashion something for a second read, so the board can consider that option if you choose to do it.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And if I might be heard on the second point, if that would be all right. So the item related to board members being required to submit questions and adding that into your policy itself, I would caution you against putting what are established practices in the district into policy, because then you don't have the ability to change that without a board vote or the ability to make exceptions to that. So there may very well be times when your administration gets, let's say, a question 15 minutes before the meeting, or, and we do want to make sure that we're allowing that practice to continue and not stifling your ability to get information. And I also have a little bit of concern about that paragraph, because under the open meeting law, most of the discussion regarding, you all have a very transparent process, but the discussion regarding items should be occurring in a public meeting. And so by sort of codifying your practice about how you answer questions and how you communicate with the administration in policy, I have concerns about that from an open meeting law standpoint. So
these questions are posted publicly,
right?
And the answers. So
that's a transparent process, but it doesn't happen in a meeting, and I don't know how that would be viewed. So my best advice is that if you have communication protocols that you want to work out with your administration, that you create a separate document outside of policy that discusses those communication protocols. I don't know if Higley has that already. You do?
Yes, we do.
So my advice to you would be that you revise your communication protocols to address that issue. So with your permission, when it comes back for a second read, I'll remove that, but I'll address the 24-hour, 5-day.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I just want to make sure I understand. So if to have the conversation about, let's say we felt that the timing of receiving the materials, I understand your point about it being in policy, but to have that conversation, because I think that we should have that conversation, just our experience with, some people work and feel like it's not enough time. And I see that it could be stressful on staff to try to meet within those time requirements. So to have that conversation, the 5 of us, when could we have that? We would just have a discussion. It didn't have to relate to policy. Is that what I'm understanding?
If I understand correctly, you have a document that discusses your communication protocol, so you would just have to have that on an upcoming agenda.
Okay, and if we wanted to put more formal language about the protocol, I'm not sure if Ms. Richards whispered or somebody did, is that an exhibit or a regulation or something, not an exhibit, but a regulation that could be attached to this policy? So that's something that doesn't have to be voted on. It just like our dress code and other things, it's just kind of the common practice. It doesn't require board approval.
So, go ahead. Vice President Anderson, currently it is on your governing board webpage, and it's what was adopted in 2021 with the assistance of ASBA. So that's definitely what we could look at and talk through and revise if you guys are interested in that. I don't know that it's necessary that it become an exhibit, but
President Schultz, Ms. McLennan, my concern when it's not policy is exactly what happened is, one board member made a decision to change the process, and no other board member was involved in the discussion process. And so I don't want that to occur again. I want all board members to be able to have a voice in whatever, even if it's changed in the future, that it's not just a communication protocol, that it's a policy to where all board members could have a say in that.
Okay, so Madam President, Ms. Van Hook, what I'm hearing you say is that you want that language to remain proposed in this policy, not to be removed, and that's a decision for the board, next board meeting.
Okay, yeah, and I'd like to be able to discuss, how do we go about ensuring that anything like this in the future involves the entire board?
So again, my recommendation would be that you address it through the communication protocol that you already have, and that would work. A change to that protocol would require the board to change it because it's a board-adopted document. So my suggestion would be that that third paragraph be, the discussion on that piece be moved to a future time when you all have the communication protocol in front of you.
So the communication protocol still requires the whole board to approve?
If it was a document developed with ASBA, and it's, in my experience, boards have in the past adopted various practices or protocols. Sometimes they concern visiting campuses, for example. But if you all have a communication protocol that's already been reviewed by a prior board and you want to revisit it, that would be something that the board can do.
Thank you.
President Schultz? Is that something that we can just put on our regular calendar as far as communication protocols? There's certain things we have to do every year and have time frames and things like that. Is that something that maybe we should put on our January meeting or our January retreat to talk about, and then if there's any changes, that is revisited every January? Typically, if the board's changing, it happens in January, and that with new people coming on, it's a good idea to have conversation about our protocols, and if based on whatever makeup the board is or the current board, if our life has changed a little bit over the year, maybe revisiting that every January, if we just have that every January review of communication protocols.
Well, President Schultz, Board Member Rees, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember exactly when it happened. From my understanding, our policy, which would have to be adopted because that's what we did with the ASBA, was the timeline originally of we get the board docs on Friday, and then we have our questions posted by Monday to get them back on Tuesday. And President Schultz can correct me if I'm wrong, we moved it to Thursday for you, Ms. Hook, because, and I don't know when this was, I want to say it was like March-ish, plus or minus. You had talked about how it was hard over the weekend, and so we kept the same time frame. And Ms. Richards, you can add to this. The reason we kept the timeline is because you all have jobs beyond responding to our questions. And so it was to ensure that as far as the number of working days that you guys have to be able to respond to stuff, as well as put things together, especially under normal circumstances, we have 2 meetings a month. This means every week, essentially, we're either having a board meeting or discussing the agenda. So the time frame of the number of days is what stayed, but then we moved it to Thursday, so that way your weekend wasn't shot and you had more time of regular working days to do that. Something else that I think can be considered is because, yes, we are new, but we've now been at this for 12 months. So the idea is that our learning curve to go through this stuff for certain things shouldn't be taking the same amount of time, essentially, because there are some things that are routine, right? We always have the same vouchers that come up in terms of, yes, we can look at what the companies are, but the process is the same. And so I recognize that some of this might have been difficult, but I guess where I have concern, and this again would be the input that I'm after from admin district office, is how long and how much of your time frame does this change impact certain things for you? Because I want to make sure that business as usual is still being done. But I also think it's a little bit disingenuous to express that it was just changed willy-nilly without input when it was a direct response to a previous meeting, board retreat, where we had talked about the length of time that you were doing, and that's why we switched it. So I recognize that there could still potentially be frustration, and that's okay, but I just don't think it's necessarily accurate to say that it was done without input when the change was literally made, because you said you were using all your whole weekend. So for those who can add to that, I think that'd be helpful to the conversation. But as far as questions, Ms. Richards, I would like to know, like how that impacts district office.
So, Board Member Wade, yes, I believe we tried to make adjustments to assist everybody. It was, how do we give you guys enough time? How do we have enough time to adequately answer? But then there is preparation involved in getting these presentations ready, all the supporting documentation, and sometimes Thursday comes really quickly, right, Mr. Moore? So, backing it up another day would be challenging in my opinion, but if other cabinet members want to chime in, we want to make this work for everybody involved. And so, time is time, right? So, I don't know. That's my input. Cabinet, any thoughts?
President Schultz, Member Wade, yes. So every day you move back, we process vouchers, weekly. And I don't want to speak for HR, but we hire people daily. All these would be, if every day you back up, that's one day we don't get to get them on the next board agenda. So then, depending on the classification, maybe an employee now can't start till the next month, or those vouchers can't be approved till the next meeting. Those are some of the immediate thoughts in my mind. Some of the others are typical daily purchases. There may be instances, and we do have some authority with emergency procurement, but in getting a lot of that documentation to you timely with accurate quotes, accurate information and numbers, it pushes us back a couple more days. So it does complicate the process, but again, if that's the expectation from the board, again, I think, like Mr. McClellan mentioned, I think a deeper study session would benefit both the district and the board to kind of come to a solution where we can both work together. I think that's a deeper conversation and possibly a study session. But yeah, every day you push back, there's implications. So.
President Schultz, Board Member Wade, yes, that's, I was told that it was changed because of that, but where before we as board members had until Monday to turn in our questions, and now that it was changed to Sunday, it completely eliminated the weekend. So I don't think, I wasn't aware until the change happened, and that's how I found out that it had been moved. So that's the purpose of being able to update the policy to allow the additional weekday. And even now, when, even though we get the agenda on Thursday, just like on, Monday, we got an email that a bunch of things were added. So we still have the ability to do that up to 24 hours. So if there's expenses or anything else that need to be added, we still have that ability for Christine to email us and say, hey, this was added, just like she did on Monday. So it doesn't eliminate that. So if there's anything new, we can still do that.
I guess my only, President Schultz, Board Member Van Hook, I think that's, I hear you in terms of days. What it sounds like is you want another day added, right? Because the time frame was the same, because we got it on Friday, questions by Monday. It moved to getting it on Thursday, questions by Sunday, but if I'm understanding this request correctly, it's giving you another day to add to look everything over. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, so it's moving it to receiving the agenda 5 working days prior to the meeting, so moving that day from Thursday to Wednesday.
I think the only concern I would have for that, so whenever we decide to talk about this going forward, is if it is difficult for whatever reason, if we start routinely getting last-minute emails of updates and changes, I think that gives off an image that I don't necessarily want to establish as like a precedent or common practice, right? Like, we did get them this week, and for some of us, that was a real big complication because we had other stuff going on or that type of stuff. I guess something for us to think about when it comes around the next time is this might happen more frequently, that we get things added after we already have it, and I don't know how I feel from a board perspective if we're supposed to be getting something, but then we also get a second update, because I'm lazy and I like to be efficient if I'm going to do something and spend time on it, because it is unpaid. This is my free time. I sit and do it once and I craft out my time to do that. Now there's a potential expectation of me having to do that twice. And I get that the second time is less potentially if it's only a few things. That would be my concern going into this, is establishing a routine in which we are then after the fact adding more.
Right, President Schultz, Board Member Wade, I'm not asking for, 2 weeks ahead of time. I'm asking for a day. And what is the difference? What a difference a day makes as far as additional agenda items. I don't see it being that big of a difference. And I guess being able to decide, is this something that can wait till the following meeting or not? They could do that now. We're not having a lot of that now, so I don't see one day making such a huge difference, but it would make a big difference for us, and us as board members, signed up to do this, and part of our responsibility is to, take the time to review our packets to ensure that we know, what's in these packets and be able to properly speak and vote on things. It's our responsibility. So I don't know if, for me, I take that seriously and put a lot of effort into the research. It might not be everybody, but that is our responsibility. And my request is just for one additional workday.
President Schultz. Sorry, I just have one concern. Ms. Reese, and plus you could go off of this, I think, is the president, we meet, right, with district to go over it. And I know a couple times for me, and I don't know if this isn't the case when you've been the board president, the schedule has had to change a little bit due to work or whatever. And so there wasn't a lot on it if it was early, and I don't know what that looks like as far as the days. And I don't remember exactly when we changed it. I think we had to meet on a Tuesday once maybe, and then with fall break, things were a little bit off too. So I don't know if that makes a difference to you guys with the day, and if it would be that much more of a change, because then we would have to meet, or the president would have to meet on Tuesday or Monday. Monday, Tuesday? Tuesday. Okay, because currently we meet on, right? Okay. Yes, yes, and I'm sorry, for me, it's a little bit tricky, but Mrs. Reese,
No, I mean,
a day doesn't matter to me, but it's just the district is that most might value your time and what you guys are doing.
well, I think too, I have a couple thoughts. One, to be honest, when we talked about getting the packet on Thursday, maybe I missed it during that conversation. I wasn't prepared for the question J to be backed up a day. I thought we were going to get it on Thursday and that questions were still going to be due on Monday. So when it changed that questions were due on Sunday, it was like, okay. I mean, I didn't anticipate that. When we talked about getting our packets a day earlier, I didn't anticipate our question timeline being backed up a day. So that just kind of caught me off guard. I get it's the same time frame. I just didn't anticipate that based on our discussion. All the way around, I know it's difficult most of the time. And Christine, I'm not real sure. The shell and the majority of our packet, like it's uploaded as you guys are getting it. So that if it's Tuesday and I can go in and I can see what's there, at one point in time, it was all uploaded at one time. And then I know Darlene started adding, because sometimes we get big packets, and I hear what you're saying. I work, I travel for work, I have a family. In some cases, I'd like to think I have some resemblance of a life, but, and like that time goes by quickly from Thursday to Sunday, and who knows what's going on, and it's like, oh, I got to get through this, and sometimes it can be rushed, versus I know for me, if I get through the weekend and I can take some time Monday morning without hectic stuff going on and I can get my questions in, I know for me that's helpful. Or if I'm looking at the packet over the weekend, sometimes I go back and look at, I have to formulate my thoughts too, going, okay, let me read that again, to make sure how I read it before I ask questions. So I know losing that day has been difficult for me as well. But if the packets are primarily, as you're getting them uploaded, we can look at some of that. That's helpful. And in my opinion, and I know you guys work really hard on these presentations, and sometimes it seems like I'm sure you're already working on the next meeting. It's like we haven't even finished a meeting and you're working on the next one, and I know that's really hard. But when we have some larger ones, sometimes that's just not enough time either. And it depends on how you view things. The course guide, that in itself is going to take a couple days to get through. So when sometimes we have to stack agendas because of what's on there. And we have time frames that certain things need to be done. And so some of our agendas, we know that, are heavier than others. So in one aspect, I don't think it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect it 5 working days in advance. I'm good with Thursday, but I'd like Monday back. And I know they work hard on it, and like I said, you're probably working on January and February. You guys put all that together, but sometimes it's difficult when, again, yes, we're volunteers, we're not paid, when we have other jobs and we have families, and that time goes by really fast, and we want to commit to our responsibility to thoroughly review it. And I think that we have to recognize sometime that it takes to do that.
I believe that the issue was the sheer volume of questions and how long it was taking. And so we weren't getting the packet until Wednesday. And that was the problem. None of us had time to prepare. And so then that was, if memory serves me correctly, Mrs. Richards, it was the questions and the amount of time it was taking district took until Wednesday afternoon, and then we weren't prepared for the meeting, and there was follow-up questions, and so that was the reasoning behind it. Because also, even though we say Sunday, nobody's looking at anything on a Sunday. I mean, they're not looking at it till Monday, but if you don't get it till Monday night, and then it's Tuesday, then we don't get the information till Wednesday afternoon.
I believe there were a couple meetings back-to-back where we didn't get the board question, like the responses to our question, until literally right before the meeting. And I think it was after those 2 back-to-back that because we had the conversation around that same time frame. I think the board retreat happened after those 2 meetings, and then it was switched, if memory serves.
Board Member Wade, President Schultz, I think that's correct. I mean, our goal is to make sure we have the information and we provide it in a timely manner. And sometimes some things take longer than others, so.
President Schultz, I want to be able to give them that additional day to be able to get those questions answered, which is why I'm asking for 1 day forward on the other end, so that you guys still have those 2 days. And I mean, we get the board packets on Thursdays, and I work on them from Thursday up to the day of the meeting, with, trying to squeeze it in on the weekends. My daughter plays softball, so I'm softball tournaments all weekend, and I come home and I work late. So my questions on Sunday typically don't get turned in till, sometime midnight or 1 in the morning, because I'm up working on it. So I want them to have those 2 days to be able to get those questions answered. But also, can we maybe figure out a way to be able to separate those questions between what would be required in order for somebody to make a vote versus something that's just for informational purposes?
Madam President, members of the board, I think since we've made a recommendation that on the second read, the paragraph related to the questions be moved to the discussion about the communication protocol, I think we ought to save that discussion for when you all revisit those communication protocols.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to 6.5, JK Student Discipline First Read.
Good evening, President Schultz, members of the board. First reads brought forward for policy JK. Board Member Van Hook recommended 4 changes to the current policy, and they're presented for the first read as is.
President Schultz, I asked to bring this policy forward because the first section of the policy did not align with state statute. The policy stated that the superintendents shall recommend policies and develop procedures where the law actually states that the governing board of any school district, in consultation with teachers and parents of the school district, shall prescribe rules for discipline, suspension, and expulsion of students. So I wanted to ensure that the policy did align with state statute. The other change on the policy was the section about the suspension for K through 12. There was a law passed this year that was related to the K through 12 suspension, and that was not in the policy, so I wanted to ensure that that was added. And then, although not a fan of confinement, that was not included in the policy at all, and that is within state statute. So I wanted to ensure that that was in there. And then at the end, where it discusses bullying or harassment targeting particular individuals, that per state statute states serious or severe bullying or harassment targeting particular individuals. So the policy change is to ensure that it aligns with state statutes and not anything that I would like to change personally.
President Schultz, members of the board, just a couple of points from our looking into the policy and how it's aligned. A policy is meant to be framed within the, to interpret within the context of the law. So it's not always necessarily going to be verbatim of what the statute says. 15843 is very comprehensive, and there's pieces of our policy that are pulled from that, but not necessarily the entirety of the law. So as far as the introduction goes, it's almost a preference of how we want it to be worded. We do have policy BG, BGC, BGB that basically discusses the role of the administration implementing, applying, administering policy, and then as the board adopting policy. So that's sort of addressed in additional policies as a whole of our normal practices. So again, there's nothing that would be necessarily out of legal compliance the way it's currently worded, but also changing the wording wouldn't necessarily make it in compliance either. So that's just a preferential language update. You beat us to the punch on the K4 suspension at the end of November. That just actually came into effect. And so we're in sync with that. That does need to be updated to align with the bill that was recently amended to change the stipulations behind the K4 suspension. As far as confinement goes, we do not use confinement as a disciplinary practice, so therefore we had it omitted from the policy because we never ever use confinement as a student disciplinary practice. So that's why it was omitted intentionally in the prior, or the currently existing policy JK. And then as far as the language of serious or severe bullying, again, it's preferential, it's worded that way in the law, and maybe Ms. McClellan can further clarify what our obligation is to have those adjectives included into that section of the policy.
Mr. Walker, can you please repeat the policies that you said that it kind of sort of is already addressed? You ran through them real quick, I just couldn't write them down.
Yeah, no problem. It's policy BG and BGC and BGB. And those are just our policies.
And you were stating that those policies contain fractions of the 15 dash, no?
No, ma'am. Those policies deal with the board adopting policy. So the language proposed to change the process for prescribing policy at the beginning of JK is not necessarily legally required. It's already addressed in the B policies. Mm-hmm.
President Schultz, Mr. Walker. So why wouldn't we want that policy to align across the board with all our policies to ensure that It does provide the language from the state statute, because the way that it's written now, it says that the superintendent shall, but that's not within the law. The law states that it's the governing board in consultation with teachers and parents.
It doesn't say adopt.
Oh, recommend policies, right. So I'm just thinking that if we have other policies that state that it's the governing board's responsibility, that it should be the same across the board, and that this policy should align with state statute.
I think the other policy talks about the governing board's role, and our role is to adopt policies and approve policies. This is just saying that the superintendent shall recommend policy regarding it and then develop those procedures. The procedures aren't, it's just that they recommend the policy. It doesn't, they can recommend a policy, but without us adopting it, they can't utilize it.
Right, but if we don't use the language that's within state statute, then the governing board doesn't have the role to work in consultation with teachers and parents. And when it comes to student discipline, that is what the state law says.
Ms. McClellan, can you clarify as a legal expert for us, please?
Sure. So the existing language within your policy now is from ASBA's sample JK, which says the superintendent shall recommend policies and develop procedures that comply with ARS 15843. The language of ARS 15843 is the language that Ms. Van Hook is indicating requires that the governing board adopt the policies and that it be developed in conjunction with teachers. So your existing language, by referencing that statute, incorporates its requirements. It's not legally incorrect to lift the statute and put it into policy. ASBA does that often, but in this instance, they chose not to. So your existing policy is compliant with state law. The proposed revision would be compliant with state law. In either method, the governing board has to adopt the policies regarding student discipline. In fact, you do so when you adopt your student handbook every year, because that's the place where you're getting the teacher input, you're getting student input, you're making changes on based upon what the community sees as the expectation for students. So that change isn't legally required. Mr. Walker is correct and Ms. Van Hook is correct that the change with regard to the K-4 is in effect right now, and the changes proposed on page 2 of the policy are in compliance with state law. The issue on confinement, you have a current regulation that addresses restraint and seclusion. It's JIC-R. So I don't find that the recitation here is necessary, given that you don't use confinement as discipline and you already have a regulation that addresses the use of restraint and seclusion, which is seclusion and confinement are the same thing. So that section I don't know is necessary. And then the last change with regard to changing the language to severe or serious or severe bullying or harassment targeting particular individuals, that is language that is in the proposed regulation issued by ASBA as well. I believe that stems from case law, not from state statute, but from case law about when you can discipline someone for off-campus conduct. So from a legal perspective, the language at the top of the policy is your choice. I do recommend that you include the language regarding the K-4 students. I would not recommend that you include the language on confinement because it's addressed somewhere else. And the last change is would make it align with your ASBA policy, which is your current resource.
President Schultz, Ms. McLennan, can we at least add, if we remove the confinement portion, can we add something at the bottom that cross-references that policy regarding confinement? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard situations where we have confined students, so it might not be regular practice, but it has been used within the district, correct?
Madam President, I think we'd be a little bit off topic if we start talking about what has happened to students. You all definitely are entitled to that information, but if there is a student restraint or a student use of a seclusion room, there's requirements that those items be documented.
Thank you, Ms. McClellan.
And then, Board Member Van Hook, if I could add, the current policy does have JLDB referenced on the very bottom of the policy, and that does point to the seclusion restraint.
And that's different than JIC-R. So, it's JIC, so JIC is included, but not JIC-R.
Well, JIC-R is it -R or JIC-R?
JIC.
It's JIC-R, so.
So that would be the regulation, not the policy. So the policy that's referenced is the JLDB.
JIC.
Well, JIC is just our student conduct policy in general. And then, but the bottom one, the cross-reference is seclusion and restraint policy.
Okay.
Also, one more thing too, if I could point out the language for the K-4 suspension, it does reference charter schools in that, so I would recommend to eliminate that portion because we want our policy to speak directly to our school district. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
Madam President, with your permission and with Ms. Van Hook's permission, I'll revise this to reflect the conversation.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd also like to apologize that I continue to call you by the wrong last name.
Oh,
because we've done it for so long, I apologize. McLennan?
You can say it any which way you want, but McLennan is right.
Okay.
J-Mac, anything you want.
No, I would like to say your name properly. I apologize. McLennan.
Right. Please don't apologize. It's a hard last name.
Thank you. Moving on to action item 7.1, I move that we approve the 2024-2025 course guide for high school, middle school, special education, and Higley Virtual Academy.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? I know Mr. Letzenheiser went over this.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
President Schultz, I do have a concern because I asked to see if we can separate one course guide from all of them, and I was not able to do that. So based on that, I'll wait till the vote. Or I can, should I say where I stand now, or no, because you have to call the vote? I'll wait till you call the vote.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Mrs. Reese, did you? Okay, thank you. All those opposed?
I oppose. And again, I just want to explain that I wanted the SPED course guide separated so that I wouldn't have to vote no on all of it. But due to based on the last meeting where we talked about the CASEL framework being utilized for our SPED course guide, I can't support anything with CASEL, especially for our vulnerable students. Thank you.
Motion carries 4-1. Moving on to 7.2, authorization of expenditure, Williamsfield High School track and field replacement to General Acrylics.
Seconded.
Questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor?
Right, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. I was curious why we're not receiving 3 quotes, even though we have a contract, well, not a contract, but did we receive? Oh, I missed that, I'm sorry.
And we sent out a RFQ, which was different than an RFP as well, because we had the difficulties with the field house, with having numerous change orders that we also wanted to make sure we were getting a quality contractor, correct? Mr. Moore?
Yeah, President Schultz, members of the board, we did not include the other quotes, but we can get that information to you so you can see that. Yeah, I think that was the question. But yeah, the other part, the procurement side, we have utilized different procurement methods for larger projects to try to avoid some of the issues we had with the request for proposal, or we call it hard bidding, where they're bidding on a project without, essentially that's their best and final price without any preliminary discussions. It's basically ignore research. So we've moved with our larger products to go towards request for quotation, request for qualifications. But Member Van Hook, we can get those other quotes to you if you want to review those as well.
Yes, please, I'm sorry. I didn't see them attached, so I wasn't aware. I missed the part about that. And then how many buses do we currently have in our fleet?
We're not there. We need to vote on the track and field.
Oh,
Different, yeah.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
what am I missing? Oh, the numbers were changed. I'm sorry, the numbers were changed on the agenda, so I didn't change it on my end. Thanks.
How are you voting?
Yes, sorry.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 7.3, I move that we approve RFP 24-02-29 contracted physical therapy services. Any questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Sorry, aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 7.4, I move that for the authorization of expenditure to 84 passenger buses from Arizona Bus Center.
Second.
Weird. Any questions, comments, concerns?
This is where my question is regarding the 3 quotes. I was so off on my numbers. Did we receive 3 quotes for the buses?
President Schultz, Member Van Hook, we have worked, no, we did not with this. We utilized a cooperative contract for this recommendation. And this Arizona Bus Center is a vendor that we have done business with in the past. And we felt comfortable moving forward with the pricing that is represented.
So even though we have a cooperative, we can still obtain, typically we could still obtain other quotes. We just chose not to do that with this.
Correct.
And so now my question, how many buses do we currently have in our fleet?
Just over 80, and a little bit of statistics on the fleet. Average fleet age is 12. We have a depreciation schedule about 15 years. Once the bus reaches about 15 years of age, it's reached essentially the end of its life cycle. And about 27 of those buses out of the 80 are over 15 years old. So this is another area where we fell behind in terms of replacement schedule, and that is why we are bringing this recommendation today.
And does this include any of the buses that we currently allow the other districts to borrow?
This does not, no.
And I noticed that the invoice did not have a trade-in. What are we doing with the old buses?
So those were previously approved on a disposal list on the consent agenda item. We've utilized, I believe we brought the vendor Sierra Auction as an additional company that we can use for disposal. They're a state-approved agency that basically auctions off the buses. We felt like they provide more value than a trade-in. Trade-in, you typically get bottom of the barrel. They're just kind of taking it off your hands, so to speak. So we've utilized, it's a little more legwork, but we're getting more back to the district by going through the auction process. And that's how we've utilized our disposals, essentially. That's the process in which we've gone through with disposals.
Thank you. And I saw that we've been able to leverage funds, but are there any potential sources of funding, such as grants, that might be available for these purchases?
So our Director of Transportation, Josh Crosby, has been with the district over 23 years. He's very in tune with the transportation world. He sits on a lot of transportation administration boards. A lot of the grants out there right now that he's seen are for electric buses. And I know it's a topic of conversation. We've had multiple meetings in which we've discussed that. Is that an option for our district? And right now, the biggest hurdle is infrastructure. We do not have the infrastructure. So these grants will fund the bus or a portion of the bus, but then we have no means to, one, service it, charge it, repair it. And so we have looked at that, but most of the federal grants and the grants out there are for electric buses.
And what are the warranties that come with the new buses?
I do not know off the top of my head on that.
That's okay. If you can just provide that answer later, that'd be wonderful. I'm just curious as far as like the term of warranties and what it covers. And then maintenance costs. Do the purchases come with any maintenance packages?
No, these are new buses, and then once we take ownership, unless it's a warranty item, there is some warranty. I just don't know the exact coverages, which I can get to you. It is the responsibility of our vehicle mechanics, which we have on staff, to continue to keep the bus in service.
And what is the timeline for delivery of the new buses once purchased?
So these are 3 to 6 months out, so we'll be hopeful to put these in service for next school year.
Thank you so much.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. 7.5, I move for the approval of IGA between Higley Unified and Arizona Department of Education regarding arts consumable grant. Questions, comments, concerns?
I mainly, President Schultz, I mainly asked for this policy to be taken off the consent agenda, or
We're not
not
there yet.
policy, I'm sorry. We're on the IGA, right? Yes. Yes, sorry. Wrong words. Asked to remove this off the consent agenda because I wanted to just ensure that, you know, anybody watching was aware of this agreement, and also to find out, are all teachers made aware of this IGA in order to take advantage of it? And what is needed for a teacher to be eligible?
I can take that one. President Schultz, Member Van Hook. The reason we're bringing this IGA as a representation of Higley Unified School District as part of the grant application process is the district has to work with ADE, and then the district administrator down to the teachers. No individual teacher can apply for this grant. A district has to engage in an agreement with the ADE via an IGA, and then at that point we can apply for the grant by listing, as you see in the IGA, the eligible teachers that meet the criteria of the grant. So I know multiple districts are aware of this. We actually got several teachers saying, hey, this is out there, can you apply for it? And so while we were already in the works of that, teachers are aware of it, but it is a district responsibility to make that agreement with ADE before funds can be, or the grant can be applied for, so.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful, and I just, you know, I want to make sure that teachers are aware that the district has this agreement, and being able to get those supplies paid for by the state is great. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to 7.6, BDG School Attorney's second read.
Seconded. Sorry, I was drinking.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Yes. President Schultz, the reason I'm proposing policy changes or changes to this policy is to to ensure effective functioning of our institution. Our current policy, BDG, dictates that only the board president and the superintendent have access to legal counsel. And that any legal questions or matters must funnel through them as a single point of contact. All board members were duly elected, and no one board member has more rights than the next. The purpose of a board president per policy BDB is to manage meetings and to help create the agendas. It is crucial for all school board members to have the opportunity to speak with legal counsel. This practice promotes transparency, accountability, and fairness within the board, allowing all board members access to the same information by which decisions, the legal action of our votes are made, while also serving the best interest of the educational community, ultimately benefiting the students, teachers, and the community as a whole. As for concerns about the cost, that would be the same if we went through the superintendent, board president, or called them ourselves directly. Avoiding concentration of power, allowing only one person, such as the board president, to communicate with legal counsel can concentrate power in one individual. This concentration poses a risk of information being filtered or manipulated as it passes through a single channel, similar to the game of telephone. A fundamental principle of governance is the presence of checks and balances. This safeguard helps prevent potential abuses and maintains the integrity of the decision-making process. Risk mitigation. In the increasingly complex legal landscape of education, board decisions can have significant legal ramifications. Allowing all board members to consult with legal counsel can help identify and mitigate risk more effectively, reducing the likelihood of costly legal disputes or compliance issues. Preserving intent, specifics, and preventing miscommunication. Legal discussions often involve specific details and nuances. If information is funneled through one person, there's a risk of losing the intended meaning, specifics, and nuances. Direct communication with legal counsel helps in preserving the original intent and the details of legal advice. Communication is complex, and relaying legal advice or information through a single intermediary increases the chances of miscommunication. Again, similar to the game of telephone. Each board member may interpret or understand information differently. Direct access to legal counsel minimizes the risk of information being misunderstood or misinterpreted. Accountability to constituents. School board members are elected or appointed to represent the interests of their constituents. When only a subset of board members has access to legal advice, it can undermine the trust and confidence of the public. Allowing all members to consult with legal counsel promotes transparency and demonstrates a commitment to serving the community's best interests. Transparency for stakeholders. Just as parents expect transparency in school operations, board members should have access to information directly from legal counsel. This aligns with principles of openness and transparency, instilling confidence in stakeholders that decisions are being made with a clear understanding of legal implications. Collective decision-making and active participation. School boards function as a collective entity, with each board member contributing their unique insight and perspectives. Ensuring that all board members can access legal counsel fosters a more collaborative environment where different viewpoints can be considered before making important decisions. It ensures that every board member is well-informed, engaged, and capable of contributing meaningfully to discussions and decisions related to legal matters. And lastly, elected officials may have concerns about confidentiality of their legal inquiries. Having a direct line to legal counsel can provide a more secure and confidential channel for discussing sensitive matters. Now, with that said, I I have requested assistance with the language for this policy several times, and unfortunately, I have not received that assistance in order to have proper legal language. And so, do I think this policy is ready to be voted on? No, but I think that we can definitely have a discussion, and then based on that, I would like assistance to come up with proper language for this policy in order to move forward with it.
President Schultz.
Ms. Reese.
Well, I think there's a couple things we need to do before we move forward with a policy like this. When I think that the board needs to have a discussion on what we want to do regarding legal counsel. I know we've been waiting for a dollar amount that we've spent already on legal counsel. We haven't gotten that yet. So I know for me as a board member, having prepaid legal versus having legal on staff, I've had both. So I think dollars make a difference on where we're at and things like that. Because then does that need to go into a discussion on do we retain an attorney on staff? And I think that makes a difference in this policy, because if we have an attorney that's on staff, I know when we had a staff attorney here, we had access to them all the time, which makes a difference because they're working for us, they're employed by us versus an outside legal counsel that we're paying an hourly rate. So I think for me, how this policy is worded, I think that's important, at least for me. The other thing is potentially determining a dollar amount. If we want to allow board members, if we have an outside attorney and we want to allow all board members to have access to an attorney, which I hear your points, then perhaps the district or the board needs a budget for that. And again, that would be a discussion at another time, but these are thoughts and conversations I think need to be had before we perhaps look at changing a policy to see what is our best avenue. It was my understanding that you were supposed to get help on the legal language, so however this is supposed to, however we want it to transpire, if we want to have those other discussions, if anyone else has the same thought process or not, that's a discussion obviously for another time. This policy's not for that discussion, but then do we look at getting that on an agenda and have that discussion and then revisit? I don't know.
Madam President, members of the governing board, would it be all right if I provide a little bit of background on my experience with school attorney policies? The proposed language in here as proposed is not incorrect legally, but so in other words, you've indicated that you wanted help to make this legal. It's a legal policy. It does pose some very practical problems in terms of how you interact with your legal counsel, and we discussed some of those at first read. So for instance, one of the concerns that Ms. Van Hook has indicated is that if the communication is only with the board president, there might be a misinterpretation of that information as it's passed on. But in fact, the passing on of that information from the board president would create an potential open meeting law violation if there is that sort of telephone sequencing, daisy chaining of the information, which is why I think the policy does exist as written, so that if any board member does have legal questions, any of you can ask for an executive session, you all hear the same information at the same time. And the attorney, the open meeting law permits the attorney for the public body to obtain direction, which can really only be obtained from the board as a whole. So I'm just going to give you an example from my recent past. I wrote an opinion for a district. The board president wanted that opinion to be sent to the Attorney General's office. I told the board that is direction that I have to be given as a whole. So it had to be brought to the board as a whole to make that decision on whether that opinion should be forwarded. So there are some complications with this. I think Ms. Reese's point as to if you choose to hire in-house counsel, I have seen governing board policies that differentiate between a board member's ability to communicate with in-house counsel versus a board member's ability to communicate with outside counsel. So if this board chooses to open up a position and hire in-house counsel, I would agree with Ms. Reese that that would be the time to relook at the board policy. Because if you have an in-house attorney, as you have in the past, you would be able to create a different working relationship with that individual. And to your point, and then I'll end here, to the point about establishing a dollar amount, you really can't do that with your current structure because you're not paying, you're paying a set rate to get the expertise of the prepaid legal counsel. So if there is not a dollar, it doesn't cost you more to have me here tonight, but next year, if your usage has gone up by a certain extent, then it would cost you more. So that would be a difficult thing to do as well.
One of my, President Schultz, Ms. McClellan, one of my suggestions was also to, and I don't know if this would be part of the policy, but kind of like the Attorney General's website where you can go and see, legal opinions. If somewhere when we log into board docs, if we can have an area to where we can see legal opinions related to, different board matters so that if we have a question, we can go check there to see if that question has been answered previously. I don't know if that's something that could be done, but that might eliminate the need for having to go to legal and ask a question that might have already been answered.
Madam President, Ms. Van Hook, so that would require this board to waive the attorney-client privilege for those opinions, and that would, if those are publicly accessible.
No, it's only login only for board members when we log in to look at like draft agendas. So it would.
We have administrative.
Yeah. So then it would just be only those with login access.
Okay, but that's certainly something that is feasible. It's uncommon for me in my practice to be asked to give a written legal opinion. Most of the work is done by email or by phone to try to answer the questions that you all have, and there are a myriad of questions that arise in the school district setting. So to give a formal legal opinion is unusual. In fact, I can't remember the last one I've done for Higley Unified. So, but that's certainly a feasible option and something that would be more protocol than policy related though.
So based on the information that I shared, are you able to, whether you agree with me or not, whether you like this policy or not, are you able to assist me with coming up with legal language based on what I'm looking to do?
If that's the direction as the board as a whole, the board has an option to table this policy and ask me to revise it as I would see fit based on Ms. Van Hook's recommendations. The board has the option of voting on this policy and voting it up or down tonight, or the board has the ability to table it until you make decisions regarding how you're going to employ your counsel next year.
So based on that, I'd like to make a motion to tabled the policy in order to get assistance with legal language and then have it come back for a third read.
President Schultz, I just at the very least want to make sure that I express, to go off of what legal counsel has advised, some of my concerns with this are that we won't all have access to the same information. Part of the stuff that you read in there, you talked about what if it was something we wanted to keep separate, and I would argue that goes against transparency. I feel like in the idea that if we go through the superintendent or go through the board president, we get status updates of some of those conversations and how those things go, and they're released to all of us at the same time. My concern would be if we had individuals being able to access when they wanted, that we have the potential of going to a board of old that you would describe, Board Member Reese, in which not all of us had access to the same information, not all of us were given the same information or at the same time. And I think that to me is the biggest concern in terms of being on equal footing. I also think it's important that we reiterate, should you feel concern, because you talked about checks and balances and the idea of that legal process, which speaks to my government teacher heart. We still have power and circumstance in which we can do executive sessions. We still can do things if we feel like going through the board president or going through the superintendent, our issues aren't being heard. So I don't necessarily feel that we are in an authoritative structure with how it is done. I feel like the structure creates an opportunity to make sure that we all have access to the same information, because that's my biggest concern as we progress and move forward, is who gets what information when and how is that released, so we are all on the same page. Because if we're making any kind of decision and three of us have three different pieces of information, it makes it hard for us to be able to do ultimately what is best for students and what's best for Higley. So that's my biggest concern. So when it comes time to whether we table this, revisit the language, that is where the biggest concern for me lies with having this process.
President Schultz, Board Member Wade, in the last paragraph, my recommendation is that all communication with legal counsel be provided to the rest of the board with weekly reports, so that we should, if there's information, if any one of us are going to legal to get information, I think that's something that all board members should be made aware of. So my recommendation is to provide some sort of report for all board members, so that there's no secret conversations with legal. So that is part of my concern as well.
I guess President Schultz, Board Member Van Hook, what I would be wanting to make sure is, because sometimes some of us may go to legal counsel and get an answer that we do not like, or get an answer that doesn't necessarily require any kind of changes or further action, and we still don't have access to some of that because then nothing was done. Because as far as it shall be in writing when practicable, I guess my concern is I'm not really solidly understanding how the structure is not done in a way that A, is still giving us the authority to get legal counsel when we need to, and is creating any kind of opportunity for a lack of transparency. I feel like given the structure that we have and how things are being released, I guess I'm not feeling the same lack of transparency when we get access to the stuff that we have, and we still have the ability to call for executive sessions or add stuff to, et cetera. So that's really where I was at, is that there are sometimes legal questions that get put forth that come out on the status report that we get each week, and that's where we see them. So that is already happening. It's just there was a person in between the board member's question and the lawyer, but it's still already happening. So I guess I just don't understand.
Sorry, President Schultz, Board Member Wade. I feel like that's happening with one individual. there's, you might feel comfortable as far as transparency because, currently you have a relationship with the board president who might share that information with you. I'm just hypothetically speaking, which the same information, I don't have a relationship with the board president, so any of those types of questions might not be shared with me. Which is why you stated that your concern is, there's conversations that can be had that the rest of the board would not be, would not know about it. And that's the purpose of providing weekly reports on any type of communication between the board and legal, so that all the board members have the same information. And I don't believe that, that's currently happening across the board.
Madam President, you all do have a motion on the floor. You haven't had a second. And if I could be heard on this point about this paragraph for a minute. Again, I have some concerns about creating a policy requirement regarding communication protocol. I mean, what you're talking about, I hear one board member saying she's satisfied with the level of communication that you're getting regarding what advice you get from legal counsel. And Ms. Van Hook, clearly you're not satisfied with that level. I think that discussion could also be bumped into a further discussion about communication protocol. But there are times when the advice that's given by legal counsel should not be shared with the board as a whole. For instance, if your HR administration is getting advice on an ADA issue, it would be incorrect for a full report of that to go because it's medical information that you all don't have a need to know. So that's one example. Or, it may be premature to share the information with the board on a weekly basis if, for instance, there's, some type of negotiations that's going on that, that it would be better to get it solidified and then present it to the board as a whole for your decision-making on it. So I do think that this paragraph might be best served in your communication protocol. And I also would like you to either second the motion or move forward with, if you can have further discussion after the second, but I'm a little wanted to.
President Schultz and Ms. McLennan, clarification, I did not mean any HR or superintendent requests. I specifically mean board member requests with legal. But I will repeat my motion. I'd like to make a motion to table this to get the assistance that I have requested in order to draft the language in this policy for a third read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Motion fails 3-2. All those, Ms. McClellan, do I start the motion back over again? Or do I can just say, all those in favor on 7.6 BG, school attorney second read?
President Schultz.
Or we already seconded it? Okay, you have a question, okay.
No, I would like to, in general, I didn't support the previous one because I don't want it to just, for legal assistance for language. I think we need to table this and kind of figure out where we are. And then I think we need to go from there. So.
Are you making a motion to table, Ms. Reese?
I would like to make a motion to table this policy revision until a later time, till the board determines direction for legal counsel.
I second.
All those in favor?
Mrs. Anderson's confused. So,
How is that different than my motion? Sorry.
no, I don't want it to be tabled to get legal advice for how it's written and to bring it back for a third read yet. I think we need to table it. I think we need to get some more information on how we want our legal policy itself to be. Where are we going? Like Ms. McClellan said, sorry, I know, we're all so bad about it. That we need to have a discussion where we want to go if we're going to figure out how much we've spent on legal, if that is a direction we want to go for in-house or not, or where we're at. And then I think from there, then we look at what this policy needs to encompass. Because then we've made a revision, and then if we change our stuff, then we have to revise it again. So I think it just needs to sit for right now until we figure that's what my motion is. That's my explanation.
Yeah, if I didn't pay attention to the initial one, my original vote was to table. I guess the back and forth about the language of the tabling, I thought we were just.
Yes, the motion was to table,
right,
to get legal assistance in writing it for a third read. I'm just asking we hold it right now until we figure some of our other stuff out. Until, as a board,
So what do you recommend the next steps be to have that discussion?
I think we need to get it on a board agenda in the first part of the year. I think we need to get some information from finance on where we're at, kind of estimated. We'll be determining where we're going anyway for next year's expenses. So I think that we need to get that on an agenda item for information so we can have more information and have discussion to determine direction we want to go.
Thank you, and it got off track, and I wanted to bring this up, is we're also going to have a new superintendent soon, and I imagine that there will be some changes in the way legal procedures are just increase in fees as well as there's an adjustment to whoever takes the seat. So I just wanted to I meant to bring that up a while ago. We just got way off track. Thank you.
I did second your motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Future agenda items. 8.1.
President Schultz.
Oh,
Mrs. Reese.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can we look at having a future agenda item regarding legal counsel and discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
President Schultz, I'd also like to add a future agenda item as things we've talked about repetitively. That is to look at the Higley Unified School District Governing Board, Superintendent, and District Administration communication protocols, because I think we need to revisit how we talk about things, what board members' policies are regarding communication amongst ourselves, as well as, district admin.
Thank you. Anything else? I hope everyone has a very,
Sorry. Yep, thank you. I would love to hear about, and whether you do this in the superintendent report or if you bring it to the community in a meeting, is hear about how AI is being used in classrooms and how the school district is incorporating it or what's going on, just an update. Thank you.
I hope everyone has a very nice holiday and a safe holiday, and we will see you in the new year. I move that we adjourn. I move that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.